Witchwood cards for Hearthstone. Please subscribe and click that notification bell, even if you don't think you need to. Now, the new expansion, Witchwood, isn't quite out yet, but the cards have been patched into the game, so you can go through all the druid cards and all the character class cards and see what's new. There have been leaks before this, like, not really leaks, but just trickled out announcements of cards, talking one by one, trying to build up that hype train. It's not really necessary, in my opinion, to be on that hype train for the next expansion. Once you can see the cards in the game and really look at them yourself, that's the point to start. So how do you look at them? Well, you may right now have to be on the Asian account, but in a day or two, you'll certainly be able to see it on your America's account. You just go into crafting mode to see cards that you don't have, because obviously nobody has Witchwood cards, and then that shows you the standard set Witchwood. If you're not in crafting mode, however, notice it is not there, so easy to miss. So then I can just select Witchwood, and that will show me only the Witchwood cards that I have. But then you can click this box and see uncraftable cards, and that's where we are right now. All of these are uncraftable because the expansion hasn't quite unlocked yet. So we're going to just go through each card, right click them, bring up this, and look at them. The idea here is to see all the new cards and start opening up our minds to what is available as far as abilities, what cards are going to be available. I plan, after the new expansion, to make probably 9 decks, one for each character class, that I build directly from my own thoughts. And then I'm going to use an app that I use, which is Hearthstone Deck Tracker, which connects to a website called hsreplay.net, which will tell me what their statistics have for the best kind of decks, the most winning and successful decks are compared to my collection of cards. And we'll see how well that works. And almost certainly, whatever kind of crazy decks I build are not going to be anywhere as good as what hsreplay.net tells me. The main thing we're interested in is new ideas, new explanations. There's a couple of keywords that are going to be added. I think there may be even a keyword that is going to be eliminated in this expansion. You can see it says not yet released. Otherwise there would be a button here where I could use my dust to craft these cards, and they don't want to allow that. So let's begin. This is a 2-mana spell card called Witchwood Apple. Add 2 Trents, 2 meaning 2 attack, 2 health, Trents to your hand, which the cards in Hearthstone still don't really explain enough. Like, you don't know if this would be a 0 mana 2/2 Trent in your hand, or a 1 mana 2/2 Trent, or even a 2 mana 2/2 Trent. It could be even higher, but I doubt it. So you really do have to play some cards or see somebody else play them until you fully understand what they do. Particularly cards like this that add things to your hand or create cards out of nowhere. Often those cards don't have any equivalencies that you can see in your collection. So it would be really nice if they used up some of the space here or here. Of course, Hearthstone is also designed to run on cell phones, so the space that's extra here on the desktop version isn't really that extra on a cell phone version. But it would be really nice if I could see what those cards look like, see the art. It would also be nice if you could just right-click a second time and get higher resolution images of the cards. Not that this is particularly low resolutions, it's just not full screen. And you do get your artist credit, but that's about it. Moving forward, though, we kind of need to move as fast as possible now that we've done the setup and not go too long. We're going to break this up into different recordings, so this will be our druid recording, and then we'll move to each one. And then there'll be a very long neutral episode 2 where we go through the vast majority of cards will be neutral. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 2 health creature called Druid of the Scythe. Choose one, transform a 4/2 into a 4/2 with Rush. Rush is a new keyword, or a 2/4 with Taunt. I believe the keyword Rush means it can attack a minion, but it can't attack a hero. So you can't do damage to your opponent's enemy hero in the first attack. They wanted to add that new concept so they could give more cards something like charge while not being hamstrung with having cards that could potentially win a game too quickly. Or you can choose a 2/4 with Taunt. Taunt is the old key phrase where you can't attack a hero until you've defeated all of your enemies that have Taunt. There is a legendary card for this class that makes your choose ones do both. So if that legendary card has been played, you would get a 4/2 creature with Rush and a 2/4 with Taunt, which is not bad for that strategy. Next we have a 3 mana spell. Draw a card, gain 1 armor for each card in your hand. I believe the maximum amount of cards you can have in your hand is, it's not 7, it's something, I think maybe 9? Maybe 10? I should know that for as long as I've been playing Hearthstone. It doesn't come up very often. Maybe it will start coming up more. Often you have the exact opposite problem where you have too few cards in your hand, not too many. So maybe if you can have 10 cards in your hand, maybe you'll get 10 armor for playing this. Which for 3 mana might be a good card, it might not. There's so far no real armor play with the Druid. You just get it and use it. There's no weapons like the Warrior has where you can destroy a minion or deal damage to a minion equal to the amount of armor you have. That's, I believe, called Shield Slam. But that's a Warrior card, not a Druid card. Next we have a 3 mana spell called Witching Hour. Summon a random friendly beast that died this game. Probably not a card I'd want to play. It makes the supposition that one beast you play is going to be very necessary to some kind of strategy, and it would be worth the 3 mana to bring them back to life, which it probably isn't. Generally speaking, beasts are cannon fodder creatures that you play them, they get 1 attack, maybe 2 attacks against the enemy, and then they die, and then you replace them with another beast. This works in the exact opposite of that strategy. Next we have a 4 mana, 1 attack, 6 health creature called the Forest Guide. At the end of your turn, both players draw a card. This could be helpful in making your opponent run out of cards a little bit faster and keeping you stocked with cards, but generally speaking, if you're making a deck built around the concept of making your opponent run out of cards, you're going to lose. Unlike Yu-Gi-Oh!, where if you run out of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!, you just immediately lose the game. And honestly, I feel like Hearthstone should probably, instead of making somebody immediately lose because they ran out of cards, I think maybe they should have both people just win in a draw. Like, in theory, I've had this very long going problem with Hearthstone where at best they're making a game designed so that you win 50% of the time, which is just far too low of a win ratio. So if they change the rules drastically, very drastically, to the point where when either player runs out of cards, it's a draw, game well fought. Congratulations, you both win. You both get a star. You both go up in ranked. That could be cheated, certainly, but it would be an extremely slow cheating process. Even if two players were able to match each other up in ranked play by some system that I don't know of, it would still take them at least, I would say, 10 turns to draw all 30 cards that you have to have. And it would certainly be a way to make more people happier more often. But that's not how it is now. Next we have a 4-mana spell called Whispering Woods. Summon a 1/1 Wisp for each card in your hand. So there is definitely a strategy that they're building towards where you are going to play with a lot of cards in your hand. The Druid doesn't have an ability so far that I've seen to constantly draw more cards. I guess this card would be about the most we've seen. He's not like the Warlock who has a special ability to take 2 damage and draw a card each time you use your hero power. So having 3 cards built around that strategy is probably not enough. You would need, I would say, closer to 7 to really make something make sense. Next we have a 5-mana 4-attack 1 health creature called Bewitching Guardian. It has taunt and a battle cry to gain +1 health for each card in your hand. So that is now, if I can count right, I believe 4 or 5 cards that are built around the number of cards in your hand. Next we have a 5-mana 3-attack 7 health legendary. That's what this dragon frame is all about. Creature called Duskfallen Aviana. On each player's turn, the first card placed cost 0. Interesting. This feels like a card that will get played a lot if people have it. I'm noticing something. While this card talks about beasts, which are actually more about hunter, both the druid and the hunter play beasts. This minion is not labeled as anything. Let's see. This minion is not labeled as anything. This minion isn't labeled as anything. And this minion isn't labeled as anything. So none of these are beasts. And that seems weird. It's very, very strange that there'd be no label on any of them. Like, here is the first beast we have. It is a 5-mana 2-attack 6 health creature called the Gloom Stag. Taunt: if your deck has only odd cost cards, gain +2/+2. This is part of a strategy that I don't think they introduced it in the last expansion, but they're gonna introduce it in this expansion, or maybe there was a couple of cards in the last expansion that had cards that did this. Being so many years into Hearthstone, you could pretty easily, if you've got a mostly complete collection of cards, you could pretty easily make a deck with only odd cost cards, and it wouldn't drastically affect your gameplay style. Now, you'd have to do a lot of math to see if it really is worth this one beast. Really could get something similar and a lot easier than removing all the even cost cards in your play. And there is a issue there, certainly. If you have no odd cost on your 5th turn, you lose another mana crystal, because you could only play either a 2/2s or 1/4 thing again, and it just keeps going up and up like that until you hit 10, and at 10 you don't get any more mana crystals, so you could always play any 10 mana cards that you might have in your deck, or a bunch of 8 mana things. Uh, so yeah, I'm not sure that this will ever make sense until we see some legendaries that do something to make this make sense. And then our final druid card is an 8 mana, 8 attack, 8 health legendary character called Splintergraft. Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, add a 10 attack, 10 health copy to your hand that costs 10 mana. Which I'm not sure that this strategy as far as a card works too well. If we were to just look at all the wild cards from a druid, and that's going to include everything that I own, so, and this is on my Asian account, so that's not that much. I didn't really see anything in this new expansion that plays directly to a strategy, and I can't for the life of me think of a reason why you would want a specific druid card to be a 10/10 version of itself plus 10. One of the issues I suppose you might see is we had no healing spells in this new expansion. These newer expansions really are just filling in gaps to things that we've already got so many cards doing something. We didn't see the adapt key phrase used at all. In fact, we didn't see any quite a few different key phrases used. Let's see. Yeah. I'm really trying to think here. Why would you want a 10/10 version of a card? Like, best case scenario, you make a card that that is cheap for like 2 mana and play this on the 10th turn, or maybe what you do is you play this on the 9th turn, you spend 1 mana to make a 1/1, play this, turn that 1/1 into a 10/10. It gives you a very generic 10/10 card, and that's it. So yeah, nothing super surprising as far as the druid expansion. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how this goes for all of the cards. Well, that's going to be it for this recording looking at the druid things. We'll, in the next recording, cover the next hero, and then we'll eventually get to the neutral cards. As always, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. Remember, when the new expansion comes out, we will be opening more than 50 cards on 3 different accounts, so that is 150 card packs. The vast majority of that will probably be Witchwood cards, although some of it may just be some classic cards for my European and Asian accounts. If you want to support my channel even further than liking and sharing and subscribing and clicking the notification bell, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game on Steam. That's a better monetization policy right now than anything else I can think of. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we're looking at the new Witchwood expansion of Hearthstone. So they've patched it in so that at least on the Asian account right now you can look at the new cards. You can't get them yet, the expansion isn't out, but the trick is simple. You go into crafting mode in your collection, and then you can see this standard set for Witchwood. Of course, you don't have any of those cards, nor can you craft any of those cards, so you need to include uncraftable cards. And of course, these cards will come out in neutral and gold versions if anybody's interested in the gold versions. Last recording we covered the druid cards, so now let's look at the hunter cards. First one we have is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 1 health beast minion called a hunting mastiff. It has the new key phrase echo and the new key phrase rush. So echo means that if it was, for example, your 10th turn and you had 10 mana crystals, you could play this for 2 mana crystals and you would get 1. Then you would have a echo card, I assume, in your deck. Or they're going to pop up some prompt, and I seriously doubt they would pop up a prompt. They'll probably just put an echo card in your deck. Although, maybe the rules will say that if you're going to play an echo, you have to do it directly after you've played the first echo card. That might change how things play a little bit. Anyways, in some form or fashion, after you play the first one for 2 mana, you can play another one for another 2 mana. So on your 10th turn, you could have 5 of these hunting mastiffs on your field, and they would have the key phrase rush. Now, rush means that they can attack a minion, but they can't attack the hero. So you wouldn't be able to do 10 damage to the hero, but you would be able to do 10 damage split in increments of 2 against any number of minions. Not a terrible card, and the concept of echo certainly opens something new to gameplay. Next card we have is a 2 mana spell called Rat Trap. It is a secret. After your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, summon a 6/6 rat. It's not incredibly uncommon for somebody to play 3 cards. And it is a different trigger for this secret than what you usually get with the hunter, which is either after somebody plays a minion, or after somebody attacks a minion, or after somebody attacks the hero. That being said, there is a lot of traps in the hunter class. I think that's intentional. I think it's totally supposed to be that way, but there are a lot of them, and the secret hunter deck certainly is one you see in the meta play a lot. A lot of people play decks with lots of secrets. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 5 health minion called the Duskhaven Hunter. It has stealth. Stealth is an old key phrase, obviously. It means that they can't be attacked until they attack first, or at least they can't be attacked or targeted directly. They can still be attacked if you play a spell that attacks all the enemy minions. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. I've never really seen a reason for these gambly cards. One turn it will be a 2/5, one turn it will be a 5/2. We've seen a couple other cards like that, and they seem to really not have any value. Like, I can't think of a strategy where I really would need something that had stealth and 5 health. Nor do I think of a strategy where if something was 5 attack with 2 health and had stealth, it might attack a hero once, but then it almost certainly dies in the next turn. Next we have a 4 mana spell called Dire Frenzy. Give a beast ++3. And shuffle 3 copies into your deck with ++3. This seems like a good card. In fact, this is the first card I've seen so far that really has me thinking, yeah, this is one to play. There's definitely some beasts in the deck, in a hunter deck you could make that if you buffed them and had 3 copies of them, you could do quite a bit. Next we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 6 health legendary minion called the Houndmaster Shaw. Your other minions have rush. I assume this only is as long as this is on the field. It doesn't say, for instance, for the rest of the game. Which, there's already a character in the Hunter collection. There's already a beast that gives other beasts rush. So adding yet another card, well, actually there's a beast that gives other beasts charge, which is better than rush. So having another card that does that but does it for all minions doesn't seem like a very generic helpful ability. But I bet there are some very specific instances where this would make sense. For instance, if you played a 1/1 minion with poison, being poisonous, then it had rush, you might be able to play this, play that 1/1 or poisonous, have the 1/1 poison some very strong taunt enemy minion and get them out of the way very quickly. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Toxmonger. Whenever you play a 1 cost minion, give it poisonous. Well, looky there. It's almost as if the card creators were thinking the same thing I was thinking. You play this, then you play a 1 cost minion. And now it has poisonous, now it has rush. And there is a spell called Unleash the Hounds that summons as many 1/1 hounds as your enemy has minions. So assuming this works with Unleash the Hounds, it gives them poisonous, and then you could kill every single minion on the board almost guaranteed, until there's some card out there that's immune to poison, which, you know, that as a concept wouldn't be a terrible thought, to have some immune to poison creatures out there. So I imagine this card will get a lot of play. More than even this will. Next we have a 4 mana spell called the Wing Blast. Deal 4 damage to a minion. If the minion died in this turn, if a minion died in this turn, this costs 1. Again, because you're playing Hunter and Hunter plays Beasts, and Beasts are generally cannon fodder, this card is probably a lot better than you think it would be. You have a high chance in any random turn playing Hunter to have a minion die in a turn. Next we have a 5 mana, 3 attack, 7 health minion that's a dragon. It's still a minion, but it's a special dragon type minion. I would prefer if all of these characters had different labels on them, and that they would go back into the previous cards and start relabeling things. And I eventually assume that they will do some of that, but they haven't done a lot. Anyways, there's a 5 mana, 3 attack, 7 health dragon called Carrion Drake. Battlecry: if a minion died this turn, gain poisonous. Now, dragons still have a very weird strategy, and I've never found a way to play dragons and like it. A lot of dragons have battle cries that say if a dragon was played last turn, gain this ability, and that's kind of it. It seems like it's just some random different versions of abilities. There's no synergy or anything. I can't think of a minion that says summon all the dragons that have died in this game. I don't think there's a card that says for every other dragon on the field gain +1/+1, or a card that says give all your dragons +1/+1. Dragons always seem to like to be around other dragons and buff themselves, and that's it. And because of that, I've never been able to find a strategy for it. And I haven't, in my experience, seen a lot of people play a all dragons deck. There is 1 or 2 dragons that are useful, but that's it. And that certainly didn't seem like one of the dragons that will be useful. Last 2 cards, we have a 5 mana, 1 attack, 3 health beast called the Vilebrood Skitter, Poisonous, and Rush. This seems extremely expensive for what it is. Best case scenario, you play this on the 3rd turn and it attacks a 1/1 minion and kills it because it has 1 health. And then next turn it attacks another 1/1 minion and kills it because it has health. And then the 3rd turn it kills some really powerful taunt minion. I mean, that's the best case scenario for 5 mana. Worst case scenario, you spend 5 mana, you play this, you attack 1 character, and then it dies because it only has 3 health. The 3 health in particular doesn't seem like it's that useful. And unless I've completely misunderstood what Rush is, it doesn't mean that you can attack in multiple turns multiple times in a turn. It just means you can attack minions in the first turn you're played. Yeah. Seems rather expensive. I would have put this at 3 mana, not 5. Anyways, moving on. We have a 10 mana, 8 attack, 8 health dragon minion called Imerus. Battlecry, double the attack and health of all minions in your hand. Interesting. And excuse me if I mispronounce some of these names. This might be Imerus. I mean, very possibly I'll mispronounce quite a bit. Doubling the attack and health of all minions in your hand probably is slightly helpful, but it also is not going to do too much. Like, the best scenario I could think is you play this on the 10th turn. You have a Cthulhu that, let's say it was at 15 attack and 15 health before you played this. You get it to 30 attack and 30 health. Next turn you play Cthulhu, you probably will win. That's kind of the only thing I could think of. You could certainly increase the health and the attack of other things, like, say, the Lich King, but Cthulhu is the only card I can really think of that does damage equal to its attack and health in such a significant amount. Or, more often than not, I imagine this card is just going to double the attack and health of some very simplistic low-level minions. It's not a bad card, certainly, but it doesn't feel like it is going to do anything too much. We did see some beasts in the Hunter expansion, but again, compared to all the Hunter cards that are available, there's really just this feeling that they're filling in gaps. There's so many cards that are class specific, and so many cards out there that have already been made, particularly if you're playing wild cards and looking at the wild cards instead of just the standard cards. It's hard for them in any expansion to add anything completely new and completely crazy. However, I might be surprised. Once we get down to the neutral cards over here, we may very well find that there are a lot more neutral cards that synergize in some way that I am just not seeing so far with the Druid or Hunter. But we'll have to wait until we get to that recording. That's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, and watch every second of my videos. All of that helps me with YouTube. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. Remember, when the new expansion is playable, we plan on opening at least 150 card packs to celebrate. If you want to support me further than liking and sharing and subscribing, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game. That helps me have games to cover besides just Hearthstone, which I cover a lot of other games besides Hearthstone. That's it for this recording. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are looking at all the new cards for the next expansion, Witchwood in Hearthstone. Please subscribe and click that notification bell. So, to see the new cards, right now, at least in the Asian account, what you do is go into crafting mode so you can see cards that you don't have. Click over here and you'll have Witchwood as a set. But you won't see any results because you can't craft any cards right now, so you have to click this box to include uncrafted cards. Last recording we looked at the hunter cards. Today we are going to look at the mage cards. Now the mage cards by default are the decks that you first play whenever you start playing Hearthstone. So typically they are all about spells, they are all about doing a lot of damage quickly and directly. While there is an incredibly infuriating cheating way to win playing the mage, I generally don't consider the mage a class that too many pros play. So we're hoping with these cards that things change and the meta game changes, because it feels like 30% of all the people who play ranked play one very specific mage meta deck, that if you play this one very specific trick, wins the game for you in one turn, and feels like a cheat, and it's not very fun, and I have lost to it far too many times. First card we have is a 2-mana, 2-attack, 2-health creature called the Archmage Erugel. I have no idea how you'd pronounce that. Whenever you draw a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. It's a legendary card. Already this card is problematic because the way that meta deck works is there's this card called Sorcerer's Apprentice that reduces the cost of spells by 1 and can reduce the cost of spells infinitely down to 0. And there is another legendary card that gives you a Fire Blast spell, which does direct damage, like 6 direct damage. And so every time you play a spell, you get another spell that does damage. Well, if you have 4, 5, 6 Sorcerer's Apprentices on the field through some trickery, the cost of those Fire Blast spells are 0. Therefore, in one turn, you can just play Fire Blast, deal damage directly to your enemy hero, get another spell for Fire Blast, play it again because it costs 0, get another spell that costs another Fire Blast, play it again, play it again, play it again, and you just keep doing it. And it literally doesn't matter if you, as the player trying to defend against this strategy, have built up 1,000 armor and are at full 30 health points. It literally doesn't matter. The only defense against it is maybe you can play Ice Block if you're playing a mage, or somehow have Ice Block that makes you immune for the rest of the turn, and still that probably doesn't save you because you'd be lowered down so close to 0 health that they'll just attack you in the next turn. This legendary card makes that strategy even worse. Now, on the second turn, you can play this. And on your third turn, if you get a Sorcerer's Apprentice, you're going to get another Sorcerer's Apprentice. Why in the world they added this, I have no idea. This doesn't work great with that. It also doesn't work with the Mana Worm card, which is a 1 mana creature that gains +1 attack for every spell cast. It really doesn't work well for the mage at all. The desire to have more people playing mage seems crazy right now. It just seems tone deaf. And there is some oddness that might be attributed to Hearthstone as they add in new cards, because they might be playing towards live streamers who like to play some crazy decks that make them always win, or they might be playing to esports Hearthstone players. But as somebody who definitely considers themselves just an average Hearthstone player, a person who spends too much time on it and would just like to have a slightly better experience with more wins, the last thing I want to do is have to play a boring and one-note mage strategy. I'd rather do something crazier and different. Moving on, though. Sorry about having to rant about it, but it's been a while, and it doesn't seem like they're going to fix it. Our next card is a 2-mana spell called the Book of Specters. Interesting. It's got spikes on it. Draw 3 cards, discard any spells drawn. Now, I don't believe there's any reason to discard cards on the mage. There is a reason to do that on the warlock. And if they started to take the key phrase discard and have some characters that synergized around discarding cards in the mage, that would be slightly interesting. But I bet that's not the case at all. Otherwise, this is just a draw 3 cards, and if you don't have any spells, which you probably will have some spells as a mage, it's probably not a very good card. Next, we have a 2-mana spell called Snap Freeze. Freeze a minion. If it's already frozen, destroy it. Now, the Frost Mage meta deck is something they always toy with, but I see very few people actually play it. With the hero replacement cards that came with the previous expansion, there was an attempt to expand mage into 3 different ways. You have a fire mage that does a bunch of fire spells. You had the frost mage that not very many people were playing, and then you had the elemental mage that tried to play elementals and had a little bit of freezing ability in that. Maybe you could combine an elemental mage deck with a frost mage deck, and this would be slightly helpful, but I doubt it. You probably could find better. Next, we have a 3-mana, 3 attack, 3 health beast minion called a Black Cat. Spell damage +1, battle cry. If your deck has only odd cost cards, draw a card. I've said it before, I've yet to see a reason why it would be worth it to only have odd cost cards. It's not actually that hard to do because there's so many cards these days, and that's probably where this idea comes from, is that Hearthstone is reaching a plateau and peak on just the number of cards it can have, particularly in wild gameplay. So they have to try and convince some people to play only odd cards, only even cards, but they've not put any cards that really make any sense. I could see a lot of people playing this just because it has spell damage +1, and it's a fair trade for 3 mana for 3 attack, 3 health. Generally, on the power curve, that's about right. You might even say this is a little bit overpowered as the power creep goes up because of the spell damage +1. And then it's rather overpowered if you're drawing a card on top of that. And I could see in that annoying mage metagame, if you're trying to get the one legendary card which I believe his name is Archmage Arcadonis. I may be mispronouncing that. Being able to draw cards to get to that legendary cards and to get to more Sorcerer's Apprentices would be helpful. Next we have a 3-mana spell called Cinderstorm. Deal 5 damage, randomly split among all enemies. Spell damage +1, by the way, in case you just don't know, would increase this from deal 5 damage randomly split to deal 6 damage randomly split. And when they mean, so far in Hearthstone, when they say randomly split, they mean that you will see some kind of animation that does 1 damage to 1 random enemy, and then you'll see that repeat to do another damage to a random enemy, and you'll see that happen 5 times. Not that you will see an animation that will hit an enemy and then it will sometimes do 1 damage, or it might do 5 damage, or it might do 4 damage. I've never seen it work that way. Next we have a 4-mana 2-attack 2-health minion called the Arcane Keysmith. Battlecry: discover a secret, put it into the battlefield. Discover is a key phrase that was added quite a long time ago, where you'll be given 3 options and you get to pick one of those options. In this instance, you'll be given 3 secrets, and whichever one you pick will be instantly put into the battlefield. Secrets for the mage are pretty much just ice block. There's one that will give you immune if you were supposed to die that turn, and then there's one that will give you 8 armor, and those are the only 2 secrets that I can even think of for the mage. Because the mage is, again, supposed to be for early players. It's supposed to be direct damage, obvious strategies. It's not supposed to be tricky with secrets. It's just supposed to be, you're brand new to Hearthstone, here's how you play spells and minions. Next we have a 4-mana 3-attack 3-health beast minion called the Vex Crow. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random 2-cost minion. This again is problematic because Sorcerer's Apprentice is a 2-cost minion. It's not the highest odds ever that you would cast a spell and get a Sorcerer's Apprentice, but it's possible. And in the meanwhile, you're still getting some other 2-cost minions, and there's quite a few good 2-cost minions in the game. There are at least 2 or 3 0 mana spells also. So you play this on the 4th turn, you theoretically could play 6 0-cost mana spells and get 6 other 2-cost minions on the field. You could go from a completely empty field to a full field of 7 minions in 1 turn on the 4th turn. Next we have a 5-mana 5-attack 5-health elemental minion, the Bonfire Elemental. Battlecry: if you played an elemental last turn, draw a card. This is the first elemental we've seen. Elementals were added a few expansions ago. It's a little weird. We haven't seen an elemental for the Druid or the Hunter, but not that weird. Again, it feels like all these cards are just filling in gaps, and they don't have any great strategy to themselves. It's been a while since we've had an expansion where it was very, very obvious. I guess it would have been Whisper of the Old Gods is probably the last expansion where it was completely obvious that you were supposed to power up Cthulhu. Every card was built around powering up Cthulhu. Every deck was built around the concept of playing Cthulhu. And if you weren't going to play Cthulhu, you probably aren't playing too many Whisper of the Old Gods cards now. And so maybe they've just found that that was too single-minded of an expansion. And now they're going into, you get maybe 3 cards that go towards one strategy, and 3 cards that go to another strategy, and 3 cards that go to another. Next card we have is a 5-mana 4-attack 4-health minion called the Curio Collector. Whenever you draw a card, gain +1/+1. I doubt that the mage is the #1 hero who could draw a lot of cards. If you could play this as a warlock, which you can't without stealing the card from a mage, or if you could play this as a rogue, which has a draw 4 cards spell called Sprint. I think it's draw 4 cards. There's other things that would make this work better. There's a Murloc that makes both players draw 2 cards, so you could get this up to a 6/6 on the 7th turn, which still isn't that great. And we've seen a couple previous cards that make you draw cards. This is an average card at best, I would say. And I don't see a real strategy as to playing that. And then finally we have a 6 mana, 5 attack, 5 health legendary minion called Toki. Time Tinkerer, Battlecry, add a random legendary minion from the past to your hand. I wonder what that means. What does it mean? From the past to your hand. Is it a legendary from a previous expansion? Or is it a legendary that was played in this game? This key phrase, which isn't even bolded like a key phrase like Battlecry or Legendary, but it effectively is a key phrase, from the past to your hand. Or this might be something I'm thinking too literal about. This could be that they've made a whole collection of legendary minions from a past time in the history of Hearthstone. And so you'll have like maybe some dragons, or maybe some dinosaurs, or maybe you'll just have like something that just doesn't exist. This is definitely a card that you're going to just have to play if you get it at all. And we're getting 1 legendary for every expansion. So you're guaranteed, worst case scenario, to get 1 legendary after you've opened 50 packs. That's when the pity timer finally kicks in. Now, hopefully, you'll have a better experience and get more legendaries than just 1 in 50 packs. Maybe you'll get 2 or 3. So, if there are 9 hero classes, you're almost guaranteed opening 50 packs you won't get that. There is also a new timer, so anybody who buys the first 10 packs of this new expansion should also get a legendary. So between that, you should get at least 2. The odds of getting this one, not great, however, so I'll have to see other people play it. And I really can't afford the 450 packs maximum it might take just to get all the legendaries. There's a ton of legendaries on my main account alone that I still don't have, some of which are still natural ones. Looks like neutral cards they'll only have 1 legendary. Nope, there's quite a few. I guess I could just type in the key phrase here and LEGENDARY. So we can just type it in the search. There's 2 legendary for the druid, there's 2 legendary for the hunter, there's 2 for the mage. So it's actually 18 legendaries in this expansion for the non-neutral hero classes, and then another 23 legendaries. Multiply 50 packs to that. You're gonna have to spend a lot of money if you want a complete collection, and Certainly, though, people have come back and said that it's actually not that expensive because a lot of the legendaries are not worth it. But that then requires you to do a lot more research and wait until the experts, have decided whether or not the card that you're thinking about getting actually is worth getting. And so Hearthstone is getting more and more expensive, if anything. It is definitely a loot box game, and certainly you can do the daily quests and play free to play like I do. And I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday playing Hearthstone. But it is certainly a struggle to try to stay caught up with all these expansions, which they've sped up the process of adding expansions to. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. All of that helps out. When you subscribe, click that notification bell, even if you think you don't need to. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. If you want to support me even further than following me and liking my videos, friend me on Steam and gift me a game. That works more than anything else does right now. Is there anything else to say? I guess not. Stay tuned if you're watching live. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're looking at the new cards for the Witchwood expansion of Hearthstone. Please subscribe and click the notification bell. So, right now, on the Asian account at least, you can look at the new cards. You have to go into crafting mode, which then lets you see that the Witchwood set is shown. If you're not in crafting mode, Witchwood is not there. And you go into crafting mode and then select Witchwood, and then you click include uncraftable cards because the cards can't be crafted right now. They all say not yet released. Last time we looked at the mage, and frankly not very happy with the cards that they're adding, because it feels like that is going to only make people who play the main mage meta deck that's very annoying. I think even more people will start playing that. But let's move forward to our next hero class, the Paladin. First card we have is a 1-mana spell called Hidden Wisdom. It's a secret. After your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, draw 2 cards. This is the second card we've seen, second secret we've seen in this expansion that triggers when your opponent plays 3 cards. We've had secrets that trigger when an opponent plays more than 3 minions. So now they're introducing potential penalties for somebody that tries to play more combo cards or multiple cheap cards. This will hurt people playing things like Murlocs, where you might play 3 Murloc cards in one turn pretty easily. It will hurt rogue cards that are trying to play combos. It'll hurt probably a lot more people, but in the long run it might also improve people that play those type of decks, including myself, because I love to play Murlocs. It might improve our skills a little bit by saying, no, you're not actually supposed to play all the cards that are in your hand. You're supposed to hold a couple cards back and have some options for the next turn. Very often I just want to rush into things and play all the Murlocs in my hand, and I often lose because of that. And I know I do it, but it's just an ingrained impulse as a video gamer to want to do everything you possibly can do. So that's interesting. I wonder if at a certain point it might be helpful for spells to have a label like the minions do. So if it's a beast minion, it might say beast down here. I wonder if secrets should just second secondarily say secret down here, and spells should just say spell down here. That way there's just some consistency. Of course, a lot of minions aren't labeled, so there's nothing here. Anyways, like, here's a gargoyle. Clearly they could make in the future a gargoyle class of minions and expand, call this a gargoyle class of minion. Next card we have is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 health minion called the Cathedral Gargoyle. Battle cry: if you're holding a dragon, gain taunt and divine shield. Well, I still don't really have a reason why I think people would want to play too many dragons in their deck. But if you are going to do that, there certainly would be a good card to play. Almost certainly if you're playing a dragon's deck, you would be holding a dragon at all times, and taunt and divine shield on the second turn with a 2/2 minion is quite useful. Next we have a 2 mana spell called Rebuke. Enemy spells cost 5 more next time. So maybe you could play this against a mage and make their enemy spells cost a lot more for 1 turn, and that might save you for 1 turn. But I think more often than not, having a card like this in your deck is wasteful and not going to be that useful. So yeah, I can't really see that as being that useful. Next we have a 2 mana spell called Sound the Bells. It's a echo card, which means you can play multiple copies of it. So say you were on your 4th turn and had 4 mana, you could play 1 copy of this card, and then a echo copy of the card will either end up in your hand, or maybe it will just prompt you right then and there whether you want to play a second copy. If it was your 10th turn, you could make 5 of these, and it gives a minion +1/+2. So on your 10th turn, you could very possibly give something +5/+10, which is quite the buff. I haven't been talking about rarity on cards. It doesn't really matter too much. In a lot of ways, the rarity is just this fictional thing that doesn't mean anything anyways. Legendaries and epics are rare, commons are very commons, rares are pretty common, and it really only has to do with your odds of getting, or at least some facade or perceived odds of what card you'll get in a loot box, which honestly may not be true at all. But that does look like a good card. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 5 health minion called the Paragon of Light. While this minion has 3 or more attack, it has taunt and lifesteal. Interesting. Although for a paladin, you're going to have to work a little harder to give it extra attack. I can't off the top of my head think of too many spells that are going to just give it extra attack. There's probably a couple out there. Certainly this would work on it. So you could play this on the 9th turn, play this on the 10th turn, give it a bunch of health and defense. Lifesteal, of course, is the key phrase, where for every damage it does, it increases your hero's health up to the maximum of 30. Next we have a 4 mana minion for 3 attack and 4 health called the Bellringer Sentry. It has a battle cry and death rattle, which I do believe this is the first death rattle card we've seen in the new expansion. Put a secret from your deck into the battlefield. A secret paladin deck probably works rather well, so I imagine this card is going to see a lot of play when the expansion comes out. Not, I guess, too much more to say about it, though. It looks like it's a fine card, and it looks like it does something. There are cards that double your death rattle and double your battle cry, so theoretically, if you had those other legendary cards on the field. You could have 4 secrets placed just because of this one card, like 2 when it's summoned, 2 when it dies. You only really have room for 5 secrets on the field anyways. You can't have more than that. No real explanation from Blizzard or Hearthstone why you can only have 5 secrets. It seems like as the game gets bigger and bigger, you should be able to have as many as you want. You can't have more than 1 copy of the same secret. I understand that, but there's so many different versions of secrets now. You can definitely have more than 5. Next, we have a 4 mana, 4 attack, 3 health legendary minion called the Glass Knight, Divine Shield. Whenever you restore health, gain Divine Shield. So that might be a very playable minion for 4 mana. He starts off with Divine Shield. You can attack somebody and lose your Divine Shield, and then you could heal somebody and give it back. Not really a strategy that I think you'll use too much. And Divine Shield is only a paladin ability, but it's something there. You would definitely want to play this in the deck where you're playing the legendary character. I believe he's a legendary character that takes all the Divine Shields of your other minions and gains like +2/+2 for every Divine Shield lost. Particularly this creature could then restore his Divine Shield, but it wouldn't help in any way. Next, we have a 5 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature beast minion called the Ghostly Charger. Divine Shield and Rush. Rush, again, being the key phrase, meaning you can attack minions but not the hero. He's also Beast, which might synergize with a Beast deck, but probably not in a Paladin deck very often. It's a little bit expensive at 5 mana for being a 3 attack and 4 health, but it does have Rush and it does have Divine Shield. Although I'm not sure I would give it 1 attack for having Rush and 1 attack for having Divine Shield. And even if I did say having Divine Shield and Rush was the equivalent of a 5 attack, it's still only a 4 health, where I'd prefer it to be a 5 health. So I'm not super hot on that card. I'm not super hot on a lot of these cards, actually. They do very much feel like they are just filler material, which is fine by me. I mean, I certainly got collections that need more classic cards than anything else, because classic cards will never get banned, or at least most of them won't. Some of them will go to what they're calling the Hall of Fame, but whereas if I was to buy Whisper of the Old God cards, those are about to move into Wild and be like League of Explorers and Grand Tournament. So I have less of an impetus to buy Whisper of the Old Gods card than I do to buy classic cards, and I have less of an impetus to buy even the newest expansion Witchwood cards than I do to buy classic cards. So most players, I think, are best served buying 50 packs of classic cards until they have everything that they want out of classic cards before they open the new expansion. But that's not interesting, and so people aren't going to do that very often. They're going to buy the new cards and live with them for a year or two, and then they'll become wild cards. Although there certainly is a high number of people, I assume, that play Hearthstone for a couple months, get bored and leave, and then maybe they come back, maybe they don't, but they're not playing every day or once every 3 days, which is the minimum that they want you to play for the daily quests. And even as somebody who plays every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's way too much Hearthstone that I play, and it's still a struggle to get all the cards. It really is a pay-to-win game. That's the real solution, is spend a lot of money, buy a lot of cards if you want to win. Next we have a 5 mana, 5 attack, 5 health legendary minion called Prince Liam. I assume that's how you pronounce that, Liam. Battlecry, transform all 1-cost cards in your deck into legendary minions. This would almost certainly work very well with a Murloc deck. Most Murloc cards are 1 cost. Transforming them into random legendary minions, probably a good thing on the 5th turn. It may be a little early to do that. The thing I see about this is also a balancing factor for a failed Murloc strategy. The legendary Murloc that gets, I believe, +1 attack for every other Murloc on the field costs 4 mana. So if by the 4th turn you haven't drawn and played that and won the game, you've probably failed your Murloc strategy. So having this 5 mana legendary and playing that and going, okay, my Murlocs don't work anymore, let me change all my Murlocs into random legendaries, re-roll the dice, and see if I can win there. It's not a great strategy. It's not transforming your cards into something that are known quantities or that synergize with each other, but it does give you a chance in a situation where you probably don't have much of a chance left. So if I get this card, I will probably put it in all my Murloc decks just for that reason. And I could certainly see in the Paladin decks too. There are reasons to play 1 mana creatures. There's, I believe, a card that gives all 1 mana creatures Divine Shield. So that this would just help those cheap Silverhand recruits that might be in your deck. Although I don't know if you can actually have Silverhand recruits in your deck. And our final thing is, I believe, our first weapon of the expansion. Hearthstone has not been hot on weapons at all. They didn't like pretty much any of them that they made up until this point, and they're trying to find some way to nerf them so that they can have more weapons. I like the idea of weapons existing. Perhaps maybe they need to supplement weapons with a secondary hero ability for some people. Like if you could heal with 1 hero ability and deal damage with the other, that might be interesting. Or you could have a very expensive hero ability in the weapon slot versus a cheap default hero ability. Anything that went in the weapon slot besides just your standard weapon would interest it. I also wonder if maybe this should just say weapon down here. I mean, this is the only design for weapons, so it's pretty obvious, but just for consistency's sake, it might be helpful. It's an 8 mana, 3 attack, 4 duration, 4 durability, or 4 use weapon. The durability is how many times you can use it, called the Silver Sword. After your hero attacks, your minions get +1/+1. That's going to be pretty helpful for a Paladin, so I definitely could see people playing that card too. And yeah, we're still very much, most of these cards just feel like they're filling in holes and not any great strategy. The biggest strategy I've seen so far for the first 4 heroes out of 9 has been this card, which I certainly will want to try and get and play for Murlocs. And we haven't seen a single Murloc in this expansion, and I doubt we will. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe, make sure you click the notification bell. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description. If you want to support me even further than that, gift me a game on Steam or gift me a gift card on Steam. Either way is very helpful to allow me to have games to create more content with. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Tragic Master, I'll just say I see you on the chat. I'm doing special recordings right now. Thank you for watching. Tragic Master says new cards soon hype and smiley face. So I'm not completely ignoring you, but I am somewhat ignoring you for these special recordings, which I'm going to break up into other videos, which will hopefully get me some more views. With the implementation of clickbait on my regular streams, it will be interesting to see if I get a lot of views on these videos or not, or if I get more that I can actually attribute to that clickbait stuff. Anyways, we're gonna get back to recording. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are looking at the new cards for the latest expansion for Hearthstone. So, please subscribe and click the notifications. So to see the cards right now on the Asian account, you go into crafting mode, and you can see this Witchwood set when you're in crafting mode. You can't see it, however, if you're not in crafting mode, so it's just not there. Easy to miss. Click on this and it will say no results because none of the cards can actually be crafted right now because the cards aren't out yet, not yet released. So you have to click this box that says include uncraftable cards. Last time we looked at the paladin cards, so this time we're going to look at the priest cards that are coming. So far I've found one card that's really stuck in my mind, and all the others feel like they're just filling in gaps, which is fine. That just is okay, I guess. Maybe the next expansion will be more exciting, or maybe I'll find a bunch of exciting cards in the neutral cards, which, you know, that would be very good if all the exciting cards were in neutral anyways. It could be argued that all these class specific cards are a waste of time and they shouldn't exist at all. Just put everything in neutral. Anyways, the first card we have, we're starting off strong with a legendary minion, a 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health beast minion called the Chameleos. He's a legendary because of this dragon frame, and also it says a legendary rarity. Each turn that this is in your hand, transform it into a card your opponent is holding. Interesting. So he's like a chameleon. So there already was a card that would transform into a random spell for each turn that it was in your hand. But this is the first card, I believe, that will transform into a random minion. Or spell. Or weapon, I suppose, too. So it could just be anything your opponent's holding. In a crazy way, this feels like a card that would be very, very useful for a esports pro Hearthstone player. Because every turn you could see what's in your opponent's hand, potentially, and you could potentially play something that's in your opponent's hand. And for 1 card slot, and for it probably is worth playing. I imagine it's not as helpful playing if you're just playing against random people who have random garbage in their hand. And it's probably not as helpful if you are a person who doesn't have much of a strategy, or at least ideas on how to counteract certain cards. Or you don't have cards that can counteract certain cards. So this feels like a very high level card. I guess that's cool. I'm not sure how much play it's really going to get for a normal player though. Next we have a 2 mana spell called the Divine Hymn. Restore 6 health to all friendly characters. That seems rather high for a priest card. Like, we already have a decent amount of spell cards that heal. To have one that restores 6 health to every minion and your own hero, every minion on your side and your own hero, for such a cheap amount is kind of ridiculously cheap. Oh well, I suppose. Next we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 1 health creature minion called Squashing. It has Echo, which means that it can, after you play this 2 mana card, you can play a copy of it for another 2 mana. It has a battle cry to restore 2 health. I certainly could see this working very well in a priest deck. Say it was your 10th turn, you have 10 mana, and you play this, you fill your field with 5 Squashings for 2/1, and you restore your hero by 10 points. That's quite a helpful card. A lot of these Echo cards feel like on the 10th turn they might have a lot more value than when they probably will get played, which is on the 2nd or 4th turn. Next we have a 3 mana spell called Vivid Nightmare. Choose a friendly minion, summon a copy of it with 1 health remaining. This is a very useful card for the priest because it not only duplicates a card like the Light Spawn, but it gives you a great minion to heal instantly too. So say on the 5th turn I play this, I copy a minion and then heal it, and because I've healed a minion, the Light Spawn's ability would trigger to give it extra attack. Seems like Priest is going to get a buff in this new expansion. It also feels like Mage was getting a buff too, which seems pretty crazy and unnecessary. Next card we have is a 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called the Glitter Moth. It's a beast. Battle cry: if your deck has only odd cost cards, double the health of your other minions. Well, this is the first one of these, and we've seen, I think, in at least 3 out of the 6 character classes we've looked at, or the 5 character classes we've looked at. Yeah. This is the first card I've seen that says if you have odd cost cards only and it will do something. Does this actually feel like it would be worth designing a deck around that? If you're playing Light Spawn, not Light Spawn. Well, wait a minute. There's a problem with this. There is a priest card, but I believe it costs 4 mana that has its attack equal to its health. But then how would I play this and double his attack, because this battle cry wouldn't trigger then? Ooh, I do believe there's a trick here. Let's see. We'll come back here. All cards. So I need to confirm this. Let's see. You could certainly have Northshire Clark as this. This summons a Light Warden, which is what I was talking about before, not Light Spawns. So I bet the one that actually is called the Light Spawn. You couldn't have this to reduce spells, which would kind of suck. You can't have a Arcanine Soul Priest, which is very useful if you're trying to have odd cards. Here you go, Light Spawn, yes. Yeah, I was talking about Light Wardens before, not Light Spawns. So Light Warden would be by far the card that is most benefited by doubling its health. But it is 4 mana. So you can't have this in your deck and trigger that ability. And there's nothing else that works with that. So on the face of it, it's basically just a trick. I mean, I don't know how you really put it anywhere in any other phrasing. It's literally just a trick to have you play a card. Light Warden would work, and doubling his health would be slightly useful, but Light Warden is a neutral card, and if you summoned a copy of it with 1 health and healed it, then both Light Wardens would be improved. I'm probably not making enough sense here. Let's come back and explain this again. So Vivid Nightmare works rather well with Light Warden as a 3-mana spell. It still works. On the other hand, Glitter Moth does not work at all. The number 1 card you would want this to work with is Light Spawn. Light Spawn is 4 mana, which would make it an even cost card, which means that best case scenario, you would have to have both of your Light Spawns in your hand, so there was nothing in your deck left. Play this, double their health, then next turn put them on the field. Then the turn after that attack and have 2, maybe 10/10 minions. Yeah, not worth it. For a second there, this seemed like it was worth it, but none of them seem like they will be worth it. Not until there's some kind of card or some kind of trick where you could change or manipulate the cost of cards in your deck. So if there's some kind of weird 10 mana neutral legendary that says all cards in your deck increase by 1 if they're even, so that you only have odd cards, or it says all cards in your deck increase by 1 if they're odd, so you only have even cost cards. That's, yeah, you need some kind of legendary neutral card to do before you play something like this and it starts to make sense. Anyways, moving on, because that was a long journey to explain why a card isn't actually going to be as useful as it seems. We have a 5 mana spell called Holy Water. Deal 4 damage to a minion. If it kills it, add a copy of it to your hand. Let's think. It's doing maybe 1 damage less, but I am not 100% sure the priest has a card that does 4 damage or any amount of damage that is that high, so this may still be worth playing. And getting a copy of a minion is very useful in some instances, so I think this card might get some play. Next we have a 5 mana 5 attack 8 health elemental minion called the Quartz Elemental, and it can't attack while it's damaged. Interesting, it says while damaged instead of while it is damaged, but I guess that's almost exactly the same phrase. No real reason I think you'd want to play elementals in the priest, but whatever. The only elemental deck I can think of you'd ever actually want to play is in the mage. Let's see. So you probably could get away with playing this just fine, because you could heal this guy. He doesn't have taunt, and I almost think like he should, but otherwise he's fine. 5 mana, 8 health. Next we have a, remember also that we haven't seen any silence cards, but there are silence cards out there, so you could play this guy and then silence him instead of just healing him. So there's 2 ways to get to allow this guy to attack. Next card we have is a 6 mana 6 attack 5 health minion called the Coffin Crasher. Death Rattle, summon a Death Rattle minion from your hand. I could see that working very, very well if you have a legendary Death Rattle card in your hand. Which there's a couple of legendary Death Rattle cards you might want to play. So on your 6th turn, allow this guy to be played and killed, and bring in potentially a 10 mana or higher Death Rattle minion. There aren't any giants with Death Rattles, I don't believe, so you're not going to get something with a massive attack much higher than 8 attack, but you could still do pretty good. Next we have a 6 mana, 5 attack, 5 health minion called Lady in the White. It's a legendary minion, Lady in White. Battlecry, cast Inner Fire on every minion in your deck. Set attack equals to health. So maybe then, if your deck has only odd cost cards, double the health of your other minions. So you play this 5th turn, and then you play this 6th turn. You have a 2-card combo of legend, both of which I believe are legendaries. Nope, this isn't even a legendary. Well, then you would have a 2-card combo, which would then massively increase the amount of attack of every minion in your deck, and massively increase the health of your other minions, unless I'm misinterpreting this and this only actually doubles the health of the minions on the field, which maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I don't think so. Otherwise, a 5 attack, 5 health legendary is not that cool. And you could certainly play this on the 6th turn and not have that many cards in your deck anyways, and I could see it not being as useful as it might seem. But it is certainly interesting, and this is certainly something you would want to see a priest class card do over any other class of cards. And our final card is a 7 mana, 4 attack, 9 health dragon minion called the Nightscale Matriarch. Whenever a friendly minion is healed, summon a 3/3 whelp. Well, as far as the craziness of dragons, this does feel like a good priest card in the form of a dragon. Although I just don't think it's worth it for 7 mana for what you're doing. But maybe. Nah, I really don't think it is. So that's the priest card. We only have the rogue, shaman, warlock, and warrior, and neutral cards to go. So we're about now at the halfway point. As far as looking at all the cards, except for the fact that, of course, looking at all the neutral cards will take a lot longer. That's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description. When you subscribe, click that notification bell, even if you don't think you need to. If you want to support me even further than doing all of that stuff, friend me on Steam and give me either a game or a gift card so I can continue to cover a wide variety of video games. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're looking at the new cards in the Witchwood expansion. I'm having trouble actually keeping it in my head that it is the Witchwood expansion and not the Wildwood expansion. While you're getting set up, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell. I do a lot more than just cover Hearthstone, and I hope people will like that. So on the Asian account, at least, you can look at the cards. You have to go into crafting mode, which then allows you to see the Witchwood tag. But then you get no results because you can't actually craft any of the cards, so you have to click this box to see uncraftable cards. They're uncraftable because they're not released yet, but they are in the game, and that means we can look at them in a nice, easy fashion, instead of looking at other people revealing them on websites and talking about them that way in piecemeal forms. So last time we looked at the priest cards. There are a couple of interesting priest cards, and now we're going to look at the rogue cards. First card we have is a 2-mana spell called Cheap Shot. It is an echo card that deals 2 damage to a minion. So for example, if you have 10 mana crystals, you could play 2 mana crystals to play this and deal 2 damage to a minion, and then in one way or the other you're allowed to play it again for another 2 mana crystals. So if you had 10, you could do it for 5, do 10 damage in increments of 2 to any variety of minions. This is not a bad card because it gives you some options. If it's your second turn and you just need to kill something really bad, you can play it your second turn. If it's your 4th turn and you need to kill 2 minions and they both have 2 or less health, you can do that. If it's your 6th turn, you could kill 3 minions with 2 or less health. There's a lot of different points between your 2nd turn and your 10th turn where this has added value and a lot of different options. So I like the idea of echo cards. I hope we see more of that than, I guess, rush cards, which is the other thing that has been introduced. Rush is fine, but it's kind of just this mushy middle of an ability. Next we have a 2-mana spell called Pickpocket. It's an echo card again. Add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. Now remember, on the rogue particularly, there are combo cards, so it wouldn't be terrible to have these kind of cards in a combo deck, because there's at least one minion that gets +1/+1 attack for every card played before this one. So like on your 10th turn you could probably play 4 different instances of Pickpocket and still have enough mana to play that minion and make him very powerful. In fact, I believe there's a minion that you play that makes spells cost 0, or your enemy's spell cost 0 for the next turn, and I have to wonder, does that mean you potentially could play something like Pickpocket for an infinite amount of time until your hand is full, and go from an empty hand to a full hand? That would be an interesting use case of it. Next card we have is a 3-mana, 3 attack, 3 health minion called Blink Fox, which is a beast class minion. It has a battle cry. Add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. So 2 steal cards. They're certainly expanding into the idea of stealing cards for the rogue. Still haven't really seen a strategy as far as stealing cards that means too much. There's not a minion that I've seen so far, at least, that says for every card you've stolen in this game, gain +1 attack or gain +1 health or anything like that. Next we have a 3-mana, 2 attack, 4 health pirate minion, which this is the first pirate that we've had added, I believe, in quite a while, and it's definitely the first one for this expansion. It's called the Cutthroat Buccaneer. Or no, that's Cutthroat Buccaneer. I don't think I've ever seen Cutthroat written down before. It's a combo card, which is the old key phrase where this gets this bonus if some other card has been played before this point. And it gives your weapon +1 attack, so it's a weapon manipulator also, which is an old strategy. There is a daily quest right now for playing pirates, so having one more pirate is not a bad idea. I don't believe there really is 30 pirates you could put in a deck and just have an all pirate deck and it make real sense. Unfortunately, I believe they're changing the daily quest, so we probably won't have the daily quest to play pirates as often anymore anyways, but they are going to change the daily quest, I believe, to a better system that doesn't require you to get victories or play very specific cards, which requires you then to delete some custom deck that you love to play to make some random deck to play cards for a daily quest, which is why so many of my decks across my 3 different accounts, my Americas account, my European account, and my Asian account, so many of those decks are just in horrific, messy states because it's impossible to care about them when you know, like, any day you're gonna have to delete that one you spent time on to make something different. Next card we have is a 3 mana, 2 attack, 2 health legendary minion called the Face Collector, Echo, and it has a battle cry: add a random legendary minion to your hand. So theoretically, unless this was reduced in cost, you could play this 3 times when you have 9 mana characters, and then you would have 3 of these on the field and 3 legendaries in your hand. It's not as useful as it might seem on the face of it, no pun intended, because a random legendary might be helpful, it might not. But it is a 3 mana card with an Echo ability and 2 attack and 2 health, so it feels like a card you might put in your deck just because it's better than a 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 health that does nothing else. So I would certainly consider it over a lot of neutral cards, but I don't see a long-term strategy or plan towards that works with that. Next we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 5 health minion called the Mist Wraith. Whenever you play an Echo card, gain +1/+1. This is the first card we've seen that gains any kind of bonus because of Echo. So if we were to play this and this and I believe this one, you can pump up and increase the attack and health of this character, but you would pretty much have to do it on the 5th turn, because you have to wait till the 4th turn to play this one. I assume it's only going to get +1/+1 when it's on the field. A lot of these things aren't fully explained, so I doubt this card can be in your hand and it will get +1/+1 every time you play an Echo before that point. Maybe it can, maybe it won't. There are cards that do work that way, and there are some cards that don't. There certainly is some more explanation and rules that need to be explained. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I always use as my comparison to the card game I played before this, Yu-Gi-Oh! Had some really tight rules that are just kind of overlooked compared to Hearthstone, or they're not really talked about, and you just kind of have to learn from experience. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, a turn was a draw phase, a magic phase, an attack phase, another magic phase, and then an end phase. So there was like 5 very specific steps, and I probably said it wrong, and you go in every single turn. There's really nothing like that in Hearthstone. You draw a card, which I suppose is your draw phase, and then you play the cards in any order you want. And if it's going to trigger a secret, it will just trigger the secrets in random instances at random times. And we'll just see. You just have to figure out what happens, which leads to some very weird scenarios where things just don't act the way you think they will. This card is an example of that. I could easily see half the people thinking this should get +1/+1 while it's in your hand, and half the people thinking it only gets +1/+1 while it's on the field. Next card, moving on though, we have a 4-mana 2-attack 2 durability weapon. I believe this is the second weapon we've gotten in this entire expansion, which isn't super surprising because they don't seem like they really know what they're doing in Hearthstone with weapons, but at least they're trying, I suppose. It's called the Spectral Cutlass. It has lifesteal, so every time it does 2 damage, it'll give you 2 health, or however much damage it ends up doing, it'll give you that same amount of health. Whenever you play a card from another class, gain +1 durability. So finally we have a card that actually does work with stealing cards. Add a random card to your hand from an opponent's class. Although I guess technically this isn't stealing because you're duplicating cards from your opponent's class, not removing cards from your opponent. The concept of stealing cards, actually depriving your opponent of cards, is actually an interesting thought for the rogue, and maybe they should go down that way. I don't believe there is any card that actually does that right now, and I don't particularly see a reason why there isn't. Next we have a 4-mana spell called Wanted. Deal 3 damage to a minion. If it kills it, add a coin to your hand. The coin gives you 1 extra mana. It's not an echo card though, so I suppose for the rogue, if you're playing a combo deck, you might play this spell, but it's kind of weak too, just dealing 3 damage and giving you a coin for 4 mana. Next we have a 6-mana 5-attack 3 health minion called the Cursed Castaway. He's another pirate class minion, or perhaps I should say she, but in general I just call all the cards he, as just a simple, easy way to say things. It has Rush, which means it can attack other minions, and it has a Death Rattle to draw a combo card from your deck, which this would be helpful on the daily quest where you have to play combos, and it would be helpful to build out a pirate deck. And I guess it's alright with Rush. It doesn't have a ton of health. There is the Ship's Cannon card that does 2 damage to a random enemy every time a pirate is played also. So yeah, I'd definitely put this in a pirate deck, but I doubt I'd have it in a deck that wasn't a pirate deck, just for random reasons. And our final card for the rogue is an 8-mana 6-attack 6 health legendary minion called Tess Greymane. I'm pretty sure we've already seen some Greymanes in the World of Warcraft storyline in which Hearthstone is based, and since I don't play World of Warcraft, I never have, I don't know any of that storyline. Although I do know that a new expansion for World of Warcraft has been announced and is coming out, so some time down the line the new expansion elements will get turned into cards. Anyways, Tess Greymane has a battle cry: replay every card from another class you've played this game, targets chosen randomly. That's pretty crazy. But this does finally open up a reason to build a thief deck as a rogue to steal or copy cards from your opponent's class. And on top of the cards that are being added to do that, there certainly is a collection of rogue cards that already did that. And when something like this adds a random legendary minion to your hand, there's still a chance that the random card you get would be from another class. So you could get a random legendary from a different class, play it, and it would get replayed, which this phrase replay, I believe, is the first time any card in Hearthstone has used this. So this is a new key phrase potential there. So theoretically, if you played a legendary minion from another class, it would also get played again. Or if you just played any minion from another class, it would get replayed again. I find Rogue as an expansion to be one of the more interesting expansions. A lot of them so far have been boring. And we're down to just 3 more in the neutral cards. Excuse me, I'm getting a tickle in my throat. That's it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, click that notification bell. And if you want to support me even further, friend me on Steam and gift me a game. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. I'm going to mute myself and cough some more for a moment for anybody listening. Okay, I'm back. I'm definitely getting an itchy throat. Talking too much. Tragic Master came on the chat, said Lynessa, Lynessa, had replay on her from Kobold, smiley face. Thanks for the tip, Tragic Master. A lot of people know the Hearthstone cards a lot more than me. Certainly, I don't pay attention to most of them. There certainly is a lot of cards not worth paying attention to. So I'm hoping I can just get through the last 4 recordings without losing my voice or coughing a lot. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are going through all the new cards for the Witchwood expansion. So right now, on the at least on the Asian account, you can go to My Collection and you can click Crafting, which will then allow you to see the Witchwood expansion, which then allows you to click Include Uncrafted Cards, which then allows you to see all of that. And while you're doing all of that, please subscribe and click the notification button, even if you don't think you need to my channel. Last time we looked at the Rogue cards, which just leaves us the Shaman, the Warlock, and the Warrior cards, and the neutral cards. So we're slowly making progress towards the end. So the first Shaman card, Shaman's what we're doing today. Is a 0 mana spell called Zap. Deal 2 damage to a minion, overload 1. Overload is a key phrase only used by the Shaman. Having more overload cards makes sense. Having a 0 mana overload card kind of makes sense. It's a pretty good card, I would say. Of course, if you play this the first turn, then the second turn becomes your first turn. Because you have one overloaded thing, unless you play something to unlock your overloaded mana crystals. Next we have a 1 mana spell called Blazing Invocation. Discover a Battlecry minion. I doubt this card would ever really work too well for you, frankly, because Discover gives you 3 random options. The chance that you would get 3 random options of the many Battlecry cards that do something that you really needed to do, compared to just playing a 1 mana card that you know will do what you want it to do, seems very low. So that's just too random of a card for me. Next we have a 1 mana 0 attack 1 health beast minion called the Witch's Apprentice. It has Taunt and a Battlecry to add a random Shaman spell to your hand. Now there is a card that will double your Battlecry effects, so I could see slightly buffing this card because of that and getting 2 random Shaman spells. But then there's still random spells, and you're still filling your field with 0 attack 1 mana creatures. And they're not even Murlocs, they're beasts. Yeah, I cannot, in my mind, justify playing these cards. And we've had a couple of cards. Like, I like Zap, but I don't like these other 2. So I'm starting to get a feeling, since there's only about 12 cards that they're adding per hero class, that maybe they felt like Shaman was a little overpowered, and so they're giving some just general bad cards to the Shaman. Next we have a 2 mana spell called the Earthen Might. Give a minion +2/+2. If it's an elemental, add a random elemental to your hand. I suppose if you're playing an elemental deck, you could play this. And the main character that you often will play in an overload deck happens to be an elemental, so there's a little bit more use for this spell. There is a minion in the Shaman deck that gets +1 attack for every overloaded mana crystal, or every time you overload mana crystals. I think it's every time you overload mana crystals, regardless of the number. So this would buff that character pretty well and give you a random elemental, which might help just giving you random cards. Next we have a 2 mana 2 attack 2 health minion called the Ghost Light Angular, and it is a Murloc, which I believe this is the first Murloc that we've had in the expansion. On top of that, it has the Echo Key phrase, so if you have, say, 4 mana crystals, you can play one of these, and then you're allowed to play a another instance of one of these. So for the one card in your hand, say you had 10 mana crystals, you could play this card 5 times and have 5 2/2 Murlocs on your field, which would be very, very useful for a Murloc deck. So I'll definitely put this in my Murloc deck if I end up having a Murloc deck, that is, which maybe I won't when all is said and done and I do the deck rebuilds. Next card we have is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health minion, beast class minion called the Merc Spark Eel. Battlecry: if your deck has only even cost cards, deal 2 damage. We've seen cards that have battle cries like this if your deck has only even cost cards, if your deck has only odd cost cards. I have yet to see any instance where it really was worth your effort to build a deck like that. There's more than enough cards out there to do things like that. If you have nice big almost complete collections of cards, but it's not worth the effort, and this is just another example of that. You could get a 2 mana, 2 attack, maybe 2 health minion that would deal 2 damage too. So, and it being a beast really doesn't do too much for a shaman deck, because there's really not that much synergy that I've ever seen with beast in the shaman deck. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 attack, 3 health beast minion called the Totem Cruncher Taunt. Battlecry: destroy your totems, gain +2/+2 for each destroyed. Now, as far as totems go, so this is like a woodchuck. As far as totems go, you can have 4 basic ones that you can summon with your hero ability. And then I believe there's 2 more totems that are cards you can play. And there might be a card that would have you summon all 4 basic totems, so you have double that. So between all of that, you can definitely get somewhere between 6 and the maximum number of totems that would be on field, which would be 7. But if there was 7 on the field, you couldn't play Totem Cruncher, so there has to be 6. So 6 is the max number. 6 times +2/+2 would give you a +12/+12, making this 4 mana creature that is a then 14/15, which is quite high for what potentially could be played on your 4th turn, but probably be closer to your 8th turn. A 14/15 beast with taunt. This seems like a very good card. Yeah, I don't see how that doesn't play very well in a deck. And the other thing about their basic totems for the shaman is that they're not very useful. Like, spell damage +1 is kind of useful. A 0 attack, 2 health taunt is not really that useful. A 0 attack, 2 health totem that can heal minions isn't that useful. And then the 1 attack, 1 health totem isn't that useful. So eating 3 or 4 of those even would be good. Frankly, even eating 1 of them to make it a 4/5 is a pretty good move. Next card we have is a 7 mana, 4 attack, 8 health elemental minion called the Bog Shaper. Whenever you cast the spell, draw a minion from your deck. I don't know why specifically this is a shaman deck, but it would work a little bit. It's an elemental, and I still don't see a reason why this would help with an elemental deck that much. But it's a little low on attack for what it's doing. It is letting you draw cards, but only minions. And it's not... I can't think of a strategy where the shaman would be specifically trying to draw a specific minion that it was so important to have that minion. This is not like Yu-Gi-Oh! There are no Exodia card pieces, although I kind of wish there were, where if you had 5 of a special class of minions, you would just automatically win the game. There are certainly maybe a dozen or so cards that would work really well in specific strategies that you might draw for, but can't think of any of those for the shaman. So I don't know what you're drawing for. Now this is weird. We have an 8 mana, 5 armor hero replacement card, which is really, really crazy because none of the other cards have gotten hero replacements. So either the shaman hasn't gotten a hero replacement card up until this point, which I don't believe is the case, or now the shaman has just been given 2 hero replacement cards where every other hero class only has 1. So you play these, just in case you don't know, and they give your hero plus whatever amount of armor, in this case 5, and they activate their battle cry, which would deal 3 damage to all minions, which is a decent combination here. You're dealing 3 damage to all minions, including your own, and you're getting 5 armor, and then it replaces your hero ability, which I guess maybe the idea, instead of having, I was thinking that maybe the weapon slot should be a secondary hero ability. Right now, I guess hero replacement cards are the only way you can get a different hero ability. And I suspect that's why this exists, is so you get this Bewitch passive hero power, which I believe this also is the first passive hero power you've ever been able to have in regular ranked play. So after you play a minion, add a random shaman spell to your hand. That's interesting. So this gives you just random spells, which might be useful and might not be. Now, I actually know, come to think of it, that this is not the only hero replacement that Shaman has, because Shaman has another hero replacement that summons the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and if all 4 of those 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse are on the field, you win automatically. Much like Exodia, except for the difference is Exodia was 5 cards that had to be in your hand in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, where these totems are summoned directly to the field and have to all be on the field. So our final card is a 9 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion called Shudderwalk. Battle cry: repeat all other battle cries from cards you've played this game. Targets chosen randomly. I could see this one working in some crazy scenarios rather well. You would really want to go back and see all the battle cry cards that you have had in your deck before you played something like that. Like it would even repeat the battle cry here to do 3 damage to all minions. But that seems like that's totally something that would be doable. Right. This is the hero replacement that the new expansion is adding. Let's see if we can find the other hero replacement that already exists. Like, they wouldn't have sneakily replaced the hero replacement with something else. Wait a minute. This isn't that. This is the other hero replacement. I must have been thinking of the warrior hero replacement. Summons the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I guess that's the case. Anyways, though, there are 2. Thrall Deathseer is a 5 mana, 5 armor hero replacement that has a battle cry to transform your minions into random ones that cost 2 more. If you played that card that doubled the battle cry and cast them again, that would transform all your minions up even more. This has the Transmute Spirit your ability to transform a friendly minion that costs into a random one that costs 1 more. So it just slowly pushes up your characters to the highest amount that they can get, which I believe the highest you can get is 11, because I don't believe there is a 12 mana card out there. Although there are definitely some 25 mana neutral cards. Let's see if I can just really skip this over. So it can transmute you certainly to a 10, and there is one 11 it can go to, and there's one 12. Well, 3 12s it can go to. So the only thing it can't transmit you into is a 13 or high, or this 20, which is fine, I suppose. So that seems a little weird to give a hero replacement to just a shaman. But then I also felt like some of those shaman cards were rather weak, so this might be the make good for that, to balance things out. Here is a hero replacement. Man, where is that card? The 4 horsemen. Let's see. I'll just type in the phrase horseman. Let's see. Summon. Summon would be too many cards. What if I typed in the phrase win? Well, geez, I guess I'll have to ask people to mention in the comments, what is that hero replacement card that summons the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? And the game wins, and you win the game. Because I cannot find it. And I don't think that they would just hide it. Like, I really don't think that they would change that card. Well, we spent enough time on this. Apologies for spending too much extra time trying to figure out what the card is. Let me look at my chat. Nope, nobody has said on the chat what that card is. Somebody has put their friend code if anybody wants to friend that person on battle.net. That is perfectly acceptable and the right way to do it. Put your own friend code and ask people to friend you. Don't ask other people to put their friend codes. Well, that's it for this recording. Next time we'll look at the new cards for the next hero, which I maybe is the Warlock. Yeah, I think it's the Warlock. That's it. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. As you subscribe, click that notification bell. It seems like YouTube really requires you to do that now. If you want a friend or follow me on any social medias like Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, Battle.net, all of those links are down below in the description box. If you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam or gift me a gift card on Steam. That helps me have more games to cover. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're looking at all the new cards for the next expansion on Hearthstone, Witchwood. So, at least on the agent account right now, you can go to my collection, and you can go into crafting mode, and you can click here to see the Witchwood cards. Of course, they can't be crafted right now, so you have to click here on this box to see them. Last time we looked at the Shaman cards, this time we're going to look at the Warlock. But first things first, let me ask everybody to subscribe and click the notification bell if you'll be so kind. Thank you. First card we have is a 1-mana spell called Dark Possession. Deal 2 damage to a friendly character, discover a demon. Warlock as a class is always a little weird. You always end up hurting your own demons or hurting your hero. For 1 mana to deal 2 damage to a friendly character and discover a demon. It's probably better than the Warlock's hero power, which does 2 damage to the hero to draw a card. You do have the potential of running out of cards playing Warlock, so you might consider this. You might also consider this kind of card if you're going to play a Renounce Evil deck where you replace all Warlock cards in your deck with a different class of cards and they cost less. That is a big gamble, but the Renounce Evil deck is kind of fun, and it does potentially give you an advantage, particularly if you don't have great cards for the Warlock. So there's a couple reasons why you just decide to use that card, but it's not blowing me out of the water or anything. Next, we have a 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health demon class minion called the Witchwood Imp. It has stealth and a death rattle to give a random friendly minion +2 health. There's already a demon that has a 0 attack and I think it's 2 health and stealth, and at the end of the turn it gives +1 health to a random friendly character. I don't really see a reason why you'd want to play something like this. Like, giving it stealth doesn't really do too much. Having it die and giving health to somebody else does something, but it doesn't seem like it's that great of a bonus. There might be some tie-ins to playing demons. There might be a reason for that. I'd have to really think about playing this over any other number of 1 mana characters that would have more attack or more health in exchange for not having stealth or giving people health when it dies. Next, we have a 2 mana spell called Curse of Weakness. It's an echo card, which means it can be played in multiple instances. So you play it once and then you're given the option to spend another 2 mana to play it again. So if you had 10 mana, you could play it 5 times. It is Curse Weakness. Give all your enemies -2 attack until your next turn, which is better than a similar card that I believe the Warrior has that only reduces their attack during your turn, not your opponent's turn. So if you were to do this with 10 mana crystals and reduce people by 10 attack for 1 turn in which you could attack them and probably kill a lot of those minions without taking any damage to your minions, and then if anybody survived, them being unable to attack because they have 0 attack or too low of an attack, works rather well. So this may be one of the first demon Warlock cards that seems like there might be some strategy there. I've never really been too hot on trying to make Warlock decks, though. They seem to be very much based on some gambling, based on drawing cards, based on taking a lot of damage. And if you draw cards, you run the gamble of running out of cards. If you take damage, you run the gamble of lowering your health down to the point where the enemy can beat you. There's just a lot of gambling there. Next, we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Dusk Bat. That's a beast class. No real reason to my head why you'd play a beast as a warlock. As a battle cry, if your hero took damage this turn, summon 2 1/1 bats. You probably could play this rather well in a warlock card, in a warlock deck. You're almost certainly going to take damage in a turn, particularly since you have the hero ability to draw a card if you hurt yourself for 2 damage. So on the 5th turn you could use your hero ability, draw a card, take 2 damage, then play this and summon a 2/4 and 2 1/1 bats. I'm not sure exactly what the 1/1 bats are really going to do for you, but it works. So that is something to consider. Although there's probably something better to consider. In a weird way, the better thing to consider is probably not playing Warlock. Next, we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 2 health minion called the Ratcatcher. It has Rush, which means it can attack minions. And has a battle cry to destroy a friendly minion. 1 second, I'm gonna cough. Sorry, all this talking today, covering all these cards, is wearing down my voice. So 3 mana, 2 attack, 2 health, minion called Ratcatcher. As a battle cry to destroy a friendly minion and gain its attack and health. I think there's a pretty similar card already like that. That is a demon, so I'm not sure why you specifically would want to play something that is just a generic minion over that demon. Maybe there's a reason, maybe there isn't. The only real thing, I guess, is it has the rush ability. Next we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 6 health minion called the Blood Witch. At the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to your hero. Very typical type card for a warlock. Again, not a demon though, so it feels like you could make a demon deck and maybe get some cards that buff demons over playing cards that aren't labeled as anything. Also, I suppose you could have a witch class or a human class if you're just going to have witches be humans, and potentially have some buffs that work with that in the future. Ideally, that's what I want to see in Hearthstone, is I want to see every kind of minion classified as something, and some amount of cards synergize with them a little bit more to keep it interesting. Next, we have a 4 mana spell to summon 4 1/1 imps called the Fiendish Circle. There's really nothing to complain about this spell. It works pretty well, particularly for the warlock. Summoning 4 1/1 imps without having to also take damage or spend extra amounts of mana is a pretty good deal, and imps are demons, so that works rather well too. Next card we have is a 5 mana, 4 attack, 6 health beast minion called the Deathweb Spider. Battle cry: if your hero took damage this turn, gain lifesteal. Again, there is definitely a good chance that your hero will take damage in any random turn, so this would work good on, say, a 7th turn play. It's like they're trying to introduce a new way to play Warlock, where you have beasts that gain abilities because you took damage. I like that as a concept. It certainly expands Warlock to a new way to play Warlock. Unfortunately, even if the last 2 cards are in that same vein, that where they're beasts that get some kind of bonus if you take damage, it's still not going to be enough, I don't think. Next, we have a 6 mana, 3 attack, 7 health legendary minion called Glinda Crowskin. minions in your hand have echo, which this certainly changes things quite a lot, but I'm not sure exactly how much it really is going to change things. You can see they're even talking about if you had a 0 mana wisp, you could play 6 of them while this is on the field and fill your field with like 1/1 attack wisps. I'm not sure there are too many warlock cards that do damage to your enemy hero or buff demons or do anything at all. So you're gonna have to really build a deck around this card, and I think you might be able to do it, but it's not gonna come easy. You're gonna have to really think about, does every single card that isn't this card in my deck have a good outcome if it has echo? And the final card we have is a 7 mana, 4 attack, 4 health legendary minion called Lord Godfrey. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all other minions. If they die, if any die, repeat this battlecry, which almost certainly means that it will get repeated over and over again until nearly everybody, if not everybody, is killed, and just leaves you with a 4/4. So it's almost as good as a board clear spell for 7 mana plus a 4/4 minion, which is interesting, I suppose. I do want to take a moment though, and I think more than anything else, like this was a new card that was added that's kind of not worth the effort. Like for 8 mana you could just destroy all minions. For this you could summon all the friendly demons that died this game. Yeah, Mal'Ganis was the one I was thinking about. He's a 9 mana, 9 attack, 7 attack demon card. Your other demons have +2/+2. Your hero is immune. If you could play this with echo, that would be rather interesting. Although, in all actuality, I guess you could never play this with echo because it's too expensive. In fact, any card above 5 mana without reducing the price has no benefit of gaining echo. So that moves you down to starting with something like this, where you can play 2 of those. And see, that's where it starts to, when you start to think practically, like which cards could I really run multiple times with echo. If they gained echo, it's not as high as you think. It's like you could put a bunch of these on the field if you're playing wild, and then they would deal 2 damage to a random non-mech minion, and that would be kind of cool. That's a really old card too, I just showed you. If you play something like this, which is more typical, a demon, it's going to do 2 damage to your hero, so you'd potentially get 5 of these on the field if you had echo, but then you'd also do 10 damage to your own hero. You could do discard, you could do lifesteal. Let's see, suppose if you did this and echoed this, you could remove 5 cards from your opponent's deck, which would be slightly interesting, but not really. It's probably not going to win. You could do something like that. and probably fill the field with these if they had echo. Yeah, so I'm getting a little diverted here, but the point is, you're gonna have to find some kind of neutral card that makes sense. Some kind of neutral card that costs 5 mana or less that really would benefit from having Echo to play something like this. Otherwise, it feels like it's gonna be this super powerful and useful card, and it just isn't. And otherwise, for the Warlock cards, they're all kind of meh. The most interesting thing were these two that get something if you take damage. And Zap is no, that not Zap, but Dark Possession's kind of interesting. A couple more demons to play in case you get a daily quest to play demons, which you very possibly won't. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of your videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. When you subscribe to my channel, make sure you click that notification bell. If you want to support me even further than doing all of that, gift me a game on Steam. That helps a lot. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're looking at all the new cards for the next expansion to Hearthstone. So at least right now on the Asian account, you can look at the new cards. You can go here to crafting mode to see the cards, and then that will allow you to see under standard sets Witchwood. And then because you can't actually craft the cards right now, you have to click this box to see them. Last time we looked at the Warlock cards, this time we're going to do the Warrior cards, then the neutral cards, and that'll take a while certainly, because the vast majority of new cards will be neutral cards, which is probably a good thing. And while you're listening, please do subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. That's very helpful. Moving forward, the first card we have from the Warrior is a 1 mana, 1 attack, 2 health minion called the Town Crier. It has Battle Cry, draw a rush minion from your deck. Rush is the new key phrase. It's like Charge, except for the fact that you can't attack heroes. I suppose if we find a card that is very important that has Rush, that you really need in your hand, something like this might work. Beyond that, however, you probably could do better for 1 mana than a 1/2 minion. It's a little strange that this is an epic, too. Although epics just talk about the rarity that you supposedly get out of packs, they don't limit the number of cards like legendaries, where you can only have 1 legendary in your deck. You can have 2 epics or commons or 2 rares. Next we have is a 2 mana, 1 attack, 3 health beast class minion called the Red Band Wasp. Both the wasps and wisps in the game now, which is going to be confusing. It does have the rush ability, so it can attack minions on the turn that it's played. And it has +3 attack while damaged, which will work rather well with a beast, with something with rush. So almost certainly on your second turn, you attack this with something that has you use this to kill something or damage something that has 1 or 2 attack. It's damaged now, and then it has 4 attack and 1 health, which is pretty good for a 2/1 that already got to attack once. It is worth pointing out that this used to be called the enraged key phrase, and they have chosen to get rid of that as a key phrase and instead just explain it because it explains it just as well. So in the old way, and they're changing all the old cards, it would have read enrage : or enraged : +3 attack. Now it reads has +3 attack while damaged, which just, they felt like that was easier and made it more sense, and it explained things a little bit better than having new players ask what does enraged mean, which, I mean, is a valid point, I think. Enraged cards are pretty unique to warrior class cards, so we'll probably see some more of those. Next we have a 2-mana spell called Warpath. It has the Echo ability, which means it can be played a second time after it's played the first time during that turn, or a third time, or as many times as you can play it. It deals 1 damage to all minions. This certainly is built around the enraged concept, which I suppose will still be a concept even if the key phrase is not used. I believe this is our 3rd weapon for this expansion, and there won't be any neutral weapons. I think. I don't know if there have ever been any neutral weapons. I don't think there are. It's 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 durability, or 2 uses. It's called the Woodcutter's Axe. Death Rattle gives +2/+1 to a random friendly rush minion. Interesting. With them getting rid of enrage as a key phrase and introducing rush, there will almost certainly eventually be a card that says has rush while damaged, which frankly there's already well, maybe there aren't any cards that have something like that, but eventually those two will get combined for some minions. Next we have is a 3 mana, 3 attack, 3 health minion called the Rabid Worgen. It has rush, so again it can attack minions on the first turn it's played. Can't attack heroes on the first turn it's played, at least by default. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 attack, 5 health minion called the Militia Commander. Rush and the battle cry gain +3 attack this turn. So on your 4th turn you play this and it does 5 damage and has 5 health to help you take out any like strong taunt creature or dangerous attack minion that your opponent might have. I could certainly see playing that. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called Darius Crowley. It's a legendary minion, so you can only have 1 in your deck. It has rush, and after this attacks and kills a minion, it gains +2/+2. So almost certainly, unless you just play it at a very poor time, it will become a 6/6 or something. It'll be, actually I guess it's the equivalent of a 6/6 minus at least 1 health. So at best it will be a 6/5 if it attacks and kills a 1 attack minion. I guess it could attack a 0 attack minion and be a 6/6. More often than not, I imagine it will be something closer to a 6/3 or 6/2 and won't last the second turn, but it's still probably a decent card to consider and to have in your deck. Next we have a 5 mana, 2 attack, 7 health minion called the Fester Root Hulk. After a friendly minion attacks, gain +1 attack. I could see this getting played quite a bit. A decent number of cards that we've seen for the Warrior so far. Yeah, you could certainly pump this one up. If there's 6 other minions on the field and they all attack, let's say they all attack the enemy, the enemy hero, and they all do 1 damage. So let's say you have 6 1/1 wisps on the field. They all attack. They give this +1 attack for each attack. You've got this up to now 8/7, and this attacks the enemy hero. In that 1 turn, you've done 14 damage of the 30 that they start with. And by the time the second turn comes around, if you attack the enemy hero another 6 times, then this guy on his own will have 14. So you would have done, in your second turn, 20 damage. So 2 turns, theoretically at least, you would have done more than 30 damage. Although, it's also possible that this one is a little bit too much of a pain because it starts too low. But I think that's going to be a good card. Next we have a 6 mana spell called Deadly Arsenal. Reveal a weapon from your deck. Deal its attack to all minions. I have a specific weapons deck I play that would work rather well with this card. So I could certainly see playing this. And even if you're not doing too much with weapons in a warrior deck, if you have just 1 or 2 in your collection and you play this, this would still probably be a pretty good board clear, if not close to board clear, spell for 6 mana. And then finally we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 8 health legendary minion called the Black Howl Gunspire, which I wonder if this is a Howl's Moving Castle reference or what. It can't attack. Whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Remember, you could always silence something like this. But there's no line-by-line vetoes as far as silence. So you can't say silence the first ability and not the second ability. Although that would be very interesting in a future expansion if you could say silence the first sentence and not the second sentence of cards, and then have a card that does the exact opposite. And then you could write half of these cards in random ways. I guess the either you could play a card, make a card that says silence 1 of all cards of a card's ability. So 50-50 coin flip whether or not it silences this part or that part. That'd be really interesting. Very gambly and a fun way to play. But ignoring silencing this and just then being able to attack with a 3/8, which isn't that great in the first place, you could play a lot of the enraged cards that do 1 damage to all minions and potentially do as many as 24 damage split between random enemies. And if you manage to always kill all the minions on your opponent's side, then the only minion that would be left, the only enemy that would be left, would be the hero. It's not the greatest of card, but I could certainly see it. I wanted to look though and see what happens when I type in the phrase enrage. Now there's literally no results. So the key phrase to search now has been changed, and that's gonna irritate some people. So you have to now type in wall damaged to see cards that used to be called enraged. And the wall damaged, I guess, is also being expanded away from being solely warrior cards now to this one mage card. And that's an interesting thing too. So has +1 attack while damaged, has +3 attack while damaged, has +3 attack while damaged, it has +6 attack while damaged, and there are several neutral cards too. +3 attack, has +1 attack and Wind Fury while damaged. Taunt has +3 attack when damaged. So there really wasn't too many cards that had the enrage anyways. Oh, they phrased it a little bit differently, so you have to search damaged now, and then when you search damaged you start to get some other cards that wouldn't have been enraged cards in the first place. So so they've really ruined enraged if you were trying to make an enraged deck. So I'd be very surprised if we don't lose the daily quest for playing any enraged cards, if there was even a daily quest. There may not never been one. And see, this summons a 2/1 damage golem, so damaged also is sometimes the name of cards. What a mess. What a mess to create. Anyways, that's the warrior cards for Witchwood. Next time we will be looking at the neutral cards for Witchwood, which that is the vast majority of cards. Although, to be fair, there's only 24 pages of cards for Witchwood, and if we were to look at like kobolds, it's 24 pages too. So this is a very consistent expansion. It seems like they've got the number of cards they want to add down pretty tightly, down to a very specific number even, and it seems like you are just always going to get 10 cards for each character class in every expansion now, and then 24 pages ending right here, with the exception of the Frozen Throne expansion, which gave you one more card for free because everybody got the Lich King. Or maybe not everybody got the Lich King, because I don't have the Lich King. Everybody got, I think, something. Anyways, that's it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. If you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam or a gift card on Steam. That helps me out a lot. By the way, if you while you're subscribing, make sure you hit that notification bell. They really want people to do that. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are looking at all the new cards for the next expansion in Hearthstone, Witchwood. As I'm doing that, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell. Thank you. So, at least on the Asian account right now, you can look at the cards. If you come into your collection and go to crafting mode, that allows you to then see the standard set. You wouldn't be able to see it normally at all. And when you click on that standard set for the new expansion Witchwood, you see no results because none of the cards are craftable right now. So you have to click this box. See, it says not yet released down here, so you can't craft them with dust. We've been through every character class: Druid, Hunter, Mage, Paladin, Priest, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. So we're down to the neutral cards. And as we're trying to think, or as I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do with the potential cards I get when I open over 150 card packs when the expansion is available, I'm trying to see if there's really any synergy plan. A lot of these cards seem like they only just fill in some gaps that we're missing with already existing cards. So it may not be too much of a change of already existing decks when I try to build decks, and that wouldn't be too fun. So when I do the deck rebuild videos, after I do the card pack opening videos, I do want to try and make some crazy synergy decks, even if I don't end up playing those decks. But to accomplish that, I need to look at these neutral cards and see what will work, see what will synergize, or is this just going to be a boring expansion? A boring expansion wouldn't be too bad either, however, like, it would just give us all some more time to earn some more card packs and hopefully not spend money for card packs. First card we have is a 1 mana, 0 attack, 3 health minion called the Swamp Dragon Egg. Death Rattle, add a random dragon to your hand. I could certainly see trying to play this in a dragon deck, but it's not a dragon itself, and so, like, there's already a card like this where nobody ever attacks it because it doesn't have an attack anyways. So I seriously doubt very many people will ever play that card. Next, we have a 1 mana, 2 attack, 1 health beast minion called the Swamp Leech that has lifesteal. I could see a lot of people just playing this just because it has lifesteal. Honestly, you play this on your first turn, you probably don't even have any damage to your hero, so lifesteal wouldn't be that useful, and that might be the downfall for this card. But if you wait till your 3rd, 4th turn or later, you probably will at some point have taken at least 2 damage, so this would help you a little bit for 1 mana. It's a roundabout way to play a 1 mana spell that would heal you for 2 while also playing a beast, which might be useful particularly in the hunter class, because there are other beasts that get bonuses if other beasts die. At least one card does. So I could see this definitely in a hunter class card. We're only really going to see minions in the neutral cards. By the way, I don't believe there are any weapons or spells in neutral cards. So every minion we look at is either going to have some kind of ability or just be very much ahead on the power curve with its attack or health to not have an ability. And I think most things will just have an ability. We've got plenty of cards already that don't really do anything, and those are pretty boring cards. Next, we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 health minion called the Baleful Banker. I don't know what that word is. Baleful. Battlecry: choose a friendly minion, shuffle a copy of it into your deck. There's the main mage meta deck with Sorcerer's Apprentice will play this card, making that main mage meta deck even more annoying. I was hoping they would nerf that meta deck, not add several cards so far that it improves it. It's crazy. And also this card works in many other scenarios too. So I think that'll get a lot of play. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 1 health minion called the Lost Spirit. Death Rattle, give your minions +1 attack. I assume that's the minions on your field, not minions in your hand or all throughout everywhere. If this gave +1 attack to all your minions in your hand, your deck, and on the field, that would be very, very powerful for 2 mana. As it currently stands, you're probably only going to, assuming it just means your field, you're probably only going to buff up 1 minion, maybe 2. So it's probably not worth the extra 1 mana you spend to do that. But maybe there's a use for it. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 4 health minion called Spell Shifter. Spell damage +1. Again, the mage could certainly benefit from spell damage +1, whereas not too many spells get cast that do damage for any other character class, so it feels like mage is also getting buffed. Maybe the shaman every now and then could benefit from a spell damage +1, but not too much. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Any card I've seen like that, where one turn it will be a 1 attack 4 health, the next turn it will be 4 attack 1 health, they're always bad deals in both directions. It just never seems like it works. It's too much of a gamble. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 3 health minion called the Vicious Scalehide. It's a beast class minion. It has lifesteal, so when it does 1 damage attacking something, it will heal 1 damage. It also has rush, which means it can attack a minion the turn it's played. I'm not sure this is really necessary. I think you probably have better cards. This would be a good card if you don't have better cards, but I could say that about every card, frankly. A little expensive to get a 1/3 with lifesteal and rush. Moving on, we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called the Blackwalled Pixie. Battlecry, refresh your hero power. Not a lot of cards refresh your hero power. In fact, it may be only 2 or 3. But it's not very often that you need to refresh your hero power, since it refreshes after each turn anyways. We're moving pretty fast. It looks so, like, not as many neutral cards as I thought there were going to be. So let's keep moving now. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 3 health, the Hinch Clan Thug. After your hero attacks, give this minion +1/+1. So even though this is a neutral card, you're really only going to be able to use it on a warrior with weapons, on a rogue with weapons, on a druid whose hero power gives you +1 attack, or has a druid that has spells that gives you more attack. Warlock, highly unlikely to ever attack. Mage, highly unlikely to ever attack. Several other of the classes, highly unlikely. So this works for a while. Now, in one of the previous expansion, they had cards that only worked for 3 out of the 9 character classes. And I'm glad they didn't really expand that, because it was very confusing. Like, it was labeled as a neutral card, but you could only play it in these 3 classes. I would much prefer they add cards that are really only useful in a few classes and just see what people do with it. Yeah, I really thought we would have a lot more cards to go through in the neutral, but now that I'm looking at it, it's just a short trip, I suppose. Page 2. Next we have a 3 mana, 5 attack, 4 health dragon minion called the Marsh Drake. Battlecry, summon a 2/1 poisonous Drake Slayer for the opponent, which of course then the opponent would kill this almost always with that 2/1 Drake Slayer. This is a pointless card to play. It seems like still there's really no reason to make a dragon deck. I cannot in my head figure out the strategy to make a deck with a lot of dragons. There are a few that work, but that is not one of them. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health card called the Nightmare Amalgam, and it's introducing a new class called All. This is an elemental mech, demon, murloc, dragon, beast, pirate, and totem. So, and I assume this means they will probably rewrite this phrase as soon as they introduce a new character class too. To say probably this is all the character classes that ever existed. Now, why would you want this? Well, it's a pretty good card that could then get any buffs and trigger any other card's abilities. For instance, there's many cards that say if you played an elemental last turn, activate this trigger. If there's another mech on the field, do this. If there's another demon on the field, give them a buff. If there's another murloc summoned, to do that. I imagine this card will have to be played a lot, just because of the wide variety of things it can do. Next, we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Phantom Militia. It has Echo and Taunt. It's not a terrible card. So Echo again is, if you have 6 mana crystals, you play this and for 3 mana crystals, and then you're given the option in the same turn to play it again and summon another 2/4 with Taunt. So you could potentially have 7 of these on the field if you could find some way to reduce their cost down to low enough for it to work. The back end problem with anything that has Echo, and there is a legendary card that gives Echo to all cards, is unless you can reduce their cost below 5, like, that's as high as you can go. You maximum number of mana crystals would be 10. You could play 1 5 card with Echo and then play it a second time. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Pumpkin Peasant. Lifesteal. Each turn this is in your hand. Swap its attack with its health. So sometimes it's a 2/4. Next turn it's a 4/2. Again, too much of a gamble. Don't see a real reason for it. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 1 health creature called Raven's Caller. It has a battle cry, add 2 1-cost minions to your hand. I'm not really sure why you would want to, on your 3rd turn, play this and then have 2 1-cost minions that are just random, while also suffering from the fact that this could be, should be closer to a 3/3. Or even worse, you play this on the 5th turn and then you summon 2 other 1-cost minions and this is still a 2/1. Even if you had the card that doubled battle cries, that still doesn't really help anything. Yeah, I don't see a strategy there for that, to play that card. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called the Tangle for Mystic. Battle cry, add a random 2-cost minion to each player's hand. Interesting. This one only adds it to your hand. This one gives it to both of them. But for the fact that you give a random 2-cost minion to your opponent, you at the very least get a 3 attack, 4 health, which is much more in line for a 3 mana character with the power curve. There might be some rare scenarios where you've already filled the opponent's hand so they can't get the random 2-cost minion. If you're trying to fill up their hands and make them run out of cards, where this might find a place in your deck, but mostly it seems anything that says random is just too random. Like, do you really need a random card, or do you want special cards that can do what you're planning them to do? Or can you have strategy is I guess the question. Next we have a 3 mana, 1 attack, 1 health minion, very low, Voodoo Doll. Battle cry, choose a minion. Death rattle, destroy the chosen minion. Okay, so I see the point of why this is so low. And I guess the only way you would stop that is if you silence the guy before killing him. This might be worth playing, particularly if you have a battlecry doubler, because then you might be able to choose 2 minions and kill it. It would take you a couple turns to get this done, because you'd have to play it, and then either in the next turn your opponent would have to kill it, or you'd have to attack with it in the turn after that. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 3 health minion called the Walnut Sprite. It has Echo. It's a pretty generic thing except for the fact that it has Echo. Again, if you're not reducing the cost, you could play this on the 9th turn and have 3 of these on the field. It looks alright, but if you're picking this card because it has Echo, you're probably making a mistake. There's probably something better for 3 mana that you have in your collection. Moving on, we have a 3 mana, 0 attack, 4 health minion called the Witch's Cauldron. After a friendly minion dies, add a random shaman spell to your hand. Interesting that this is not a specific shaman card and is instead available to everybody. Again, though, does this work? In a weird way, this makes that main mage meta deck with the Sorcerer's Apprentices and multiple copies of the Sorcerer's Apprentices, which reduce the cost of spells down to 0. This makes that meta deck even better, because then you don't have to play the legendary card Archmage Archidonis to give you a Fire Blast after you cast a spell. Instead, you could play something like this and try to get random shaman spells on top of it and kill your enemy minions. Yep, that's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be in the mage meta deck almost certainly. Next we have a 4 mana, 1 attack, 6 health demon, which I believe this might be the first demon available in neutral cards, called the Fell Soul Inquisitor. It has lifesteal and taunt. It's a pretty weak taunt creature, but it does have lifesteal. I don't see any reason why you'd want to play a demon, though, if you're not playing the warlock. So that's an interesting twist. And you can see in some of these cards, these 2 cards in particular, these were originally going to be in the Warlock and the Shaman collection, but they had already made their 10 cards, so they said, oh, we'll just put them in the neutral. Who cares? Next, we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health beast minion called the Life Drinker. Battlecry, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero, restore 3 health to your hero. Not terrible for being slightly above 1 mana. Normally it would be a 3/3/3. Yeah, that's a pretty good card. Next we have the 4 mana, 3 health, and 2 4 mana, 3 attack, 2 health minion that is the Mad Hatter. Battlecry, randomly lose 3 hats to other minions. Each hat gives +1/+1. Interesting. And I'm going to add a break right here, and I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm back. Apologies for taking a break. Let's get back into this. Okay, here we go. Next card we have after the Mad Hatter is a 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health creature called the Night Prowler. It's a beast minion, battle cry. If this is the only minion on the battlefield, gain +3/+3, which is interesting because most beasts synergize by having other beasts on the field. It's a little strange to have one that synergizes by not being on the battlefield. It is also, it's also a little bit weird to have no beast on the field if you're playing a beast deck on your 4th turn. So this might be one of those tricky minions that just doesn't work. Sad to say, it may very well just not work as a beast deck. It might work pretty well, however, say you were playing a Murloc deck, because no, that wouldn't work either, because it's only if it's the only minion on the battlefield. Yeah, I don't think this minion will work for anybody too well. Moving on. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Sandbender. Battlecry, draw an elemental from your deck. If you need to play elementals, definitely play this guy. If you don't, because he's weak. And you're probably not going to draw the right elemental you want unless you only have one elemental in your deck, which might be the case in some scenarios. Next we have a 4 mana, 4 attack, 4 health creature called the Scaleworm. It is a beast minion. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and rush. So then it's a 5/4 with rush for 4 minion if you're holding a dragon. Again, I still can't figure out a way to play a very heavily loaded with dragons deck. If I could figure out a way to play a dragons deck, I would play this. And it would be very weird to play this, certainly, because it's a beast and not a dragon. But at least it kind of works and sort of almost synergizes with the dragon concept as it stands. But the dragon concept as it stands is confusing. Moving on, we have the 4 mana, 2 attack, 6 health minion, Swift Messenger. Rush. It has rush, so it can attack a minion on its first turn. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Again, any card like this, they've apparently made a whole series of these. Seems like too much of a gamble and not really worth the effort. Moving on. Next we have a 4 mana, 0 attack, 9 health minion called the Unpowered Steambot, which is a mech. It's very weird about the mech class minions because they seem to every now and then just throw in 1 or 2 in every expansion, so you don't forget they exist. But they really came out with the Goblins vs. Gnomes expansion and have not been given any real support since then in Goblins vs. Gnomes, I believe. Now, if we can just kind of look. Yeah. Goblins vs. Gnomes is wild, so the vast majority of mech minions are wild. This is a taunt minion with 9 health for 4 mana. I could see kind of playing that, particularly if you're playing a mech only deck. There is a legendary mech character in Wild if you're playing Wild, where if you have 3 other mechs on the field at the end of the turn, it transforms into like Voltron. I've never seen it actually happen successfully, or maybe I've seen it once. So yeah, you'd have to have some pretty specific conditions to play that card. Next we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health minion called the Witchwood Piper. Battlecry, draw the lowest cost minion from your deck. which you could probably do something pretty tricky with that one. But I don't know what. You'd have to still wait till your 4th turn to play it. This might work well to draw more Sorcerer's Apprentices for the Mage meta deck if you only have Sorcerer's Apprentices in your deck that are 2 mana and everything else is more expensive than that. Come to think of it, the whole Witchwood theme for this expansion doesn't feel like it's really getting explained very well. I guess it really doesn't matter in a card expansion, but it just seems like artistically and just barely thematically Witchwood is being explained, but for the most part these are just cards, and I guess that's fine. Moving on, we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 6 health minion called the Chief Inspector. Battlecry, destroy all enemy secrets. I certainly could see playing this against mages. I could certainly see playing this against hunters. Will this be so beneficial to play on the 5th turn that people at the high level ranked, those legendary esports Hearthstone players, start playing this card? That is the question. As for most people, if you're down at rank 20, if you're down lower than rank 20, you probably don't need to play this card. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health mech again, called the Clockwork Automaton. Double the damage and healing of your hero power, which is interesting because there's another legendary card that will double the attack and healing, damage and healing of your hero power and your spells. It's Prophet Valon for the priest. So I'm wondering then, if you play 2 of these and a Prophet Valon, are you doubling, then doubling, then doubling again, which should be 8 times as much damage and healing? That'd be interesting to experiment with. You might see the Hearthstone card player Trump or Disguised Toast covering something like that and trying that out. Next we have a 5 mana, 2 attack, 6 health minion, legendary minion. This is probably our first legendary for the neutral cards, the Dull Master Durain. Whenever you draw a minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. I suppose that's pretty cool. It's pretty weak for that ability, but yeah, I could certainly see playing this on the 5th turn and then having just a lot of 10 mana minions that you're getting 1/1 copies of. It's a pretty specialized card, though. You really have to think about what that brings to your play. Next we have a 5 mana, 5 attack, 8 health minion called the Muck Hunter. It has rush and a battle cry to summon 2 2/1 Mucklings for your opponent, which 2/1 Mucklings wouldn't kill this guy unless Mucklings have poisonous, so it's probably worth playing this. The rush, probably not the main reason why you'd play this, but he's got a little bit of extra health, but I guess that's what you balance this against, is you're giving your opponent something with 4 attack effectively and 2 health to have 3 extra health yourself and rush. So it's pretty balanced. I'm saying that about a lot of these cards. It's like, yeah, if you think about it and if you calculate it, some of these cards are good, but there's only been a small handful of cards I've been blown away with and said, oh yeah, this card will work well in everybody's deck. Which I guess maybe that's just how new expansions are going to be in Hearthstone. That the obvious, easy to play cards that everybody would want and appreciate have already been filled in, and now it's time to get weird. It's time to make cards that only make sense in a few places, not everywhere. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 5 health minion called the Rotten Apple Bomb. Taunt, Death Rattle, restore 4 health to your hero. Again, that feels like something that would be more of a priest card than a neutral card. I'd play that. It has Taunt for 1 less attack and 4 heal. So yeah, this is probably one of those cards that blows me away, and I'm like, yeah, that works. Next we have the 5 mana, 3 attack, 12 health Witchwood Grizzly Beast minion as Taunt and a battle cry to lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand. Which I seriously doubt you can have 12 cards in your hand, so I don't think you'd ever play this and immediately kill it, but it could be low. Let's just assume that on average when you play this on the 5th turn that your opponent has 5 cards. That would make him a 3/7 with Taunt. It's probably not as good as this 5/8 with Taunt. You could certainly time this, but you'd be only timing this against bad players that don't have at least a couple of cards in their hands. But I think it might work. Yeah, this one needs experimentation. Do the pros usually have 5 cards in their hand, or do they usually have more than 5, or do they usually have less than 5? I don't know. Moving on, we have a 6 mana, 6 attack, 5 health legendary minion called Gin Greymane. At the start of your game, this is the first start of game card that we've seen in the expansion. It's probably the only one. If your deck has only even cost cards, your starting hero power costs 1, which that could be a big benefit, certainly. But maybe not a big enough benefit to really want to play this card. And because this is your deck has even cost cards at the beginning, there's no way to manipulate this card in any way. So if there ever came a card that said destroy all odd cost cards in your hand, in your deck, which would be the ideal continuation of something like this, this still wouldn't work. Here's where this card is going to start to get really, really crazy, though. There is this card from an old expansion called Prince Malchezaar, and he gives you 5 random legendary cards. Very good for a new player. They are random at the beginning of each game, so you can't keep them or learn them or have a strategy with them. But it is 5 extra cards, which is very beneficial, and they are random legendaries, which is very beneficial. This is the kind of card, and perhaps it's the first legendary card in Hearthstone that could definitely not benefit you very much. I guess it doesn't really hurt you. But if Prince Malchezaar gives you this card, and you don't have only even cards, then you just have a 6 mana, 6 attack, 5 health, which is still fine, I suppose, but you're not taking advantage of this. And I heavily suspect more people will see Gin Greymane through Prince Malchezaar than they will through any other reason. Because I just don't think it's worth it. And I imagine we might see a card very similar to this that is only odd cost cards. Next card we have is a 6 mana, 2 attack, 7 health minion called the Mossy Horror. Battlecry, destroy all other minions with 2 or less attack. I assume that's on the field, not just throughout both players' deck. 1 second, I'm gonna cough. Without fail, every time there is an expansion, I end up talking way too much about the cards, and it causes me to wear out my voice and cough quite a bit. Is there anything to say about this? It's low attack, it's a decent amount of health, but way too low attack. To destroy all minions with 2 or less attack, you're very rarely going to have that scenario come up on your 6th turn. Even if you're playing against a Murloc deck, either your Murloc deck would have won by the 6th turn, or your opponent's Murloc deck would have won by the 6th turn, or they've just lost by other means, so I don't see a reason to play that. Next, we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 3 health legendary minion called Azalina Soul Thief. Azalina Soul Thief. Battlecry, replace your hand with a copy of your opponent's. Well, that will certainly screw up some people at the high level of esports play, but it's probably just a random crazy gamble for any regular player. I think you could do a lot better for 7 mana if you're not playing at rank 1 play or legendary level play. Next, we have a 7 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion, legendary minion, Countess Ashmore. Battlecry, draw a Rush, Lifesteal, and Death Rattle card from your deck. I don't really like. This is an alright card by itself, I guess. It's just a little low on attack and health. But the real way to use this would be to have one very specific rush card that you would want to play, say, on your 8th turn, and a very specific lifesteal card, and a very specific death rattle card. And I'm not sure exactly why it is Rush, Lifesteal, and Death Rattle. Yeah. Again, a card you'd have to really think about and build a deck very specifically around one card, which probably isn't the right way to make decks, particularly for Hearthstone. It's probably a lot better to have a generalized synergy with 2 or 3 strategies towards victory. That way, if one of those strategies or even 2 of the strategies get subverted by your opponent's play, you still have a 3rd way to win, instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. Next we have is a 7 mana, 2 attack, 8 health minion called the Darkmire Moonkin. Spell damage +2. This looks like just an awful card. Really awful. Way too low health. I imagine it's trying to be some kind of middle card between the one minion that has spell damage +5 and all the other minions that have spell damage +1, but I don't think they got the balance there. Also, I don't think too many people will play this card, so I doubt it will get changed. Activision Blizzard isn't really big about fixing cards that aren't played. It's just about nerfing cards that are played. There's tons of boring, never played cards in Hearthstone, and they're perfectly fine with it. They've said so directly. And I imagine that is going to be an example of a boring, never played card. Next, we have a 7 mana, 5 attack, 9 health minion called Furious Eaton. It has taunt. I guess it's fine. It's kind of a boring card too. It's just a variant of what would it be, a 7 mana, 7 attack, 7 health taunt minion. Which I guess there was a hole there in there. If we spreadsheeted all the taunt minions, there probably wasn't a 5/9 taunt minion for 7 until this point. Next we have a 7 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion called the Worgen Abomination. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other damaged minions. The only deck I could see playing something like this in would be a Warrior Enraged deck. So you could play something that would do 1 damage to all minions so that they are damaged minions. Then you play this on the 7th turn and it does 2 more damage to all the damaged minions. But it would also be doing damage to your own damaged minions. Seems like it's a crazy gamble and a so specialized card that you would just never actually want to play it. That's the best I can figure. Next we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 11 health, quite high health minion called Wormguard. Battlecry: if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. Again, if you can figure out a reason to make a dragon deck, this would be a card to play in a dragon deck, which is still odd because it's not a dragon. And we're on the last page. Next we have an 8 mana, 7 attack, 7 health elemental minion, the Cauldron Elemental. Your other elementals have +2 attack. And boom goes the dynamite. This is the card that you need in any elemental deck. Now there's a reason to make an elemental deck, an actual synergy with 1 card at least. You put this in a mage elemental where you have the hero replacement card that lets you summon more elementals. It makes sense. Yeah, so big game changer there. It starts to we'll start to see people playing elemental a little bit more, I'd bet. If only these last 4 cards, before we look at them, made some big game changers. I might be a little bit more positive on Witchwood, but right now it seems like it's just gap filling. Pretty boring cards with no real synergy or new ideas. Rush is kind of the only new idea. Next we have 8 mana, 8 attack, 8 health minion called the Deranged Doctor. Death threat will restore 8 health to your hero. It's perfectly fine, and because it's a common, I bet a lot of new players could play this instead of bemoaning the fact that they don't have an 8 mana legendary to play instead. If you do have an 8 mana legendary, play it above this, almost certainly. But this would be fine in any deck, pretty good in a priest deck particularly. Next we have an 8 mana, 3 attack, 8 health, that's really low attack, minion called Gillian Royal Guard. Yeah, I suppose that's Gillian or Gillian. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It has Divine Shield, which is interesting because Divine Shield has been mostly for Paladin. This may be the first card that's not a Paladin card that has Divine Shield. And Rush. Each turn this is in your hand, it swaps its attack and health. I guess the idea here is that Paladin cards and Paladin decks might play these cards that swap their attack and health. Or priest cards might play these too, because where the priest has a lot of cards to increase health, the Paladin has a decent number of cards to increase attack. So there might be some gap fillers if you're willing to play these cards and be constrained by the crazy rules of it changing its attack and health each turn. Otherwise, don't see any reason why you'd play this. It's pretty ridiculous. Even with the Divine Shield, it's still pretty ridiculous. Like 8 let's say it was an 8 attack with 3 health. It has rush. It kills something with 8 health. Fine. It's lost its divine shield. It's almost certainly going to die before you get a second attack. Next we have an 8 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called the Splitting Fester Root. Death Rattle, summon 2/2 Splitting Saplings. And so unless the Splitting Saplings then have a Death Rattle to become 2 1/1 saplings, which maybe they do, maybe they don't. I bet they don't. This doesn't seem like it's worth it. And even if it does do that, it's still not really worth it in my mind. Yeah, this is another pass. Just seems a little too crazy. I don't see a reason why you'd want to do this with the druid. I don't see why you'd really want to have such an expensive card with anybody. And then finally we have a 9 mana, 7 attack, 8 health minion, beast style minion, legendary beast minion called Baku the Moon Eater. Start of the game, if your deck has only odd cost cards, upgrade your hero power. And upgrading your hero power, again, very useful. Maybe, just maybe, it's worth having this card in your deck and playing around only playing odd cards. It's a little surprising that we didn't have a neutral 10 mana card. Did we have any 10 mana cards added? There's a 9 mana card in this expansion. There's an 8. That's going the wrong direction. 7. 8. 6. So here's one. Here's one 10 mana card in the entire expansion. And that's the only one. Alright, well, unless I'm missing something that's pretty obvious, there doesn't seem like there's any new synergies. So I'm really left to my own devices as far as trying to build new decks. I think a lot of my new decks, after I open the card packs when the expansion is out, I think a lot of them are going to be through the Hearthstone Deck Tracker app and hsreplay.net, which will tell me the best decks to build based on their knowledge, which their knowledge won't be complete because this will be a new expansion. But I think that's mostly what I'm going to do instead of trying to build some random things. Although I probably will make at least one of every character class deck, and just for fun. But I don't know how many of those I'm really going to keep. The one thing with all the odd things, how can I search odd? Because this certainly isn't the way to search for odd cards. So do we have to type in something like is odd as a new key phrase? So yeah, how do you even build a deck with only odd cards? Do you literally have to come in here and say, give me all the 1 mana cards and pick from those, and then give me all the 3 mana cards and pick through those? I suppose that's what you have to do. And one little change to be able to have odd cards and only odd cards ruins the point of playing that. And of course, this is for my Asian account, so we certainly have. I mean, you start to run into a problem though, because you can't even see 9s. You have to click on 7s and then scroll past 8s to the 9s. And if there happens to be any 11s, which I guess right now there aren't any 11, except for there is like one 11 character legendary that is specific to one of these classes. Here it is. So yeah, you'd have to browse to the 9s, browse to the 11s. I don't think there are any 13s. And that is going to be incredibly difficult. We need some way to search by odd. And is there anything else to say? 24 pages of new cards for the new expansions. Once the cards are available, let's see if they are available right now. Like, right now, looking at all of the wild cards on my Asian account, I'm only really taking up 26 pages. Well, for 26 pages for all the ones that were 7 above. Taking up 175 pages otherwise. Let's see. We can't open these yet. I'll double check and reset the account just to double check that, but I'm pretty sure maybe tomorrow though. Since Hearthstone is so bad about announcing dates on so many different things, maybe tomorrow I'll be opening the 150 card packs. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, please click that notification bell. If you want to support me even further than that, friend me on Steam and gift me a Steam game or a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Here we'll look at the Americas account and just see if I could have been looking at the Americas account this whole time. I believe the answer to that will be probably a clear and absolute. Yeah, I could have been. Alright. Good to know. But we can't open these card packs. And there's almost certainly no reason why. Oops. There's almost certainly no reason why the European account would allow us to open card packs early. But we'll launch it anyways. Just so we know we're safe to end streaming today. And then maybe I'll get around to doing the recording I had planned on doing today. Looking at the daily quests also. Guess I don't need to come in here, I just need to go in here. That's right. Alright. So move back to the Asian account. They generally make the Asian and European accounts wait, and the Americas account gets to open card packs early. I wouldn't be surprised if it's exactly noon Eastern or Pacific time tomorrow that cards can be purchased. That probably won't be when I stream. I doubt I'll even be awake at that time. Yeah. So we're good. That's it for the stream. Thanks for everybody that watched. Bye.